Hello and welcome everyone to Super Week here at SCS. I'm joined by Stickula. Stickula, we've got a hell of a week ahead of us. There's a number of games going to be played. We are going to be kicking it off with a hell of a series, Visionary versus InControl Nation. I could not be any more excited to be behind the mic with you.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, this has definitely got to be SCS's Super Week. We've got so many games taking place. It's not often that you get an opportunity every day of the week to tune in to SCS under our new Twitch handle, SCS TV, to catch the action Monday through Friday. We just got games all around the year for you guys, and I'm really excited to dig into this first one and what a set of teams to kick off this week.
Yeah, I mean, Visionary, they've had a couple of roster swaps. They're trying to find themselves, re-gear themselves, and go for sort of a move, a push towards Challenger League, as it were. They want to get themselves a roster that is, capable of making it into that. They've got to be, meeting those criteria. InControl Nation, they've been pretty stock standard. They've been, as you would expect from a team of that caliber. But I mean, let's sort of look at this week ahead of us. We've got 9 matches coming into this week alone. We've also got the new patch, which will be dropping this week as well, partway through that play week. So teams have been scrimming on the test server, doing some work, getting prepped into that. So coming towards the end of this week, it's going to be an absolutely wild ride.
Right, and so this game today, the 2 matches that we've got on the table for you, they get to play the old meta, the style of Siege that they're used to, and the rest of the games, I think starting on Tuesday up until Friday, they'll be playing on the new patch. They'll be kind of our pilgrims exploring the new patch, seeing how the meta tends to work out and how everything will shift. And so this is kind of the last hurrah, I suppose, for the utility meta inside of the Storm Competitive Series.
Yeah, and we won't touch too much on the new patch and all that's going on. That's not today's issues. Today's issue is Visionary versus InControl Nation. The maps are there for you on the screen. Kafe, Dostoevsky first, and then Theme Park to follow up. InControl Nation, they're a team that does play a very, very capable Kafe. On the other side of the coin, Visionary are absolute fans of that theme park. They love to go there. They love to take teams there, try and get themselves some points on the board. So I'm interested to see what strategies they'll be bringing into it. Obviously, interesting to see Visionary opted for the attack first on Kafe. It's probably the least preferred side for the majority of teams. So I'm imagining that they're bringing in some planning, some strategies coming into what is InControl Nation. You'd have to imagine they've done their homework, done some VOD reviews, and have figured out how to approach this team.
Yeah, and we were talking just shortly before the start of the stream about the strength of Visionary on a map like Theme Park. We saw them take it, as you can see there. Their second game of Playday number 2 was a pretty solid 7-4 victory, and they've played it just that one more time since then. Not their best performance, a 2-7 loss, so there's mixed results so far from them, but from what I've heard through scrims, through practice, and through other leagues, it's a pretty competent map. I remember the old InControl roster being specifically pretty capable on the map. I think they played it during SCL Season 4 in the playoffs. I'm not too confident on that. It's been a very long time. As you know, esports is a fast-moving world, but I think INC can definitely state a case for themselves on that map pick, and it's a real pleasure, honestly, to see the theme park come through. A map that we don't get too many opportunities to cast on, and because of that, it's so rare. It is that nice little special treat here, and what a good set of teams to get on this map specifically.
And speaking of teams, on your screen at the moment is Visionary. We see another new face coming to the roster. Marta will be making his debut here for the team, looking to get some points on the board for them. You see their match history. They had a great start. They've taken some very, very close maps where they unfortunately lost out. Then that 4-win streak and the last few weeks where those roster changes have come through, they've really struggled to gel. They're looking to get themselves back in the swing of things, push back towards that top 6 position, and potentially, Marta could be the pickup that does it. On the other side of things, InControl Nation have very much lived up to their name in this season so far. Very much in control, very consistent, and look, Stick, there's some names on this roster who have been standout performers in the tournament.
Certainly, and you've got to talk about Bone. He's that, I think people like to call him kind of a powerhouse. I mean, he's just a real tank. He can get a lot done. He's got a great entry split. I mean, 12 and 5, that's pretty well to stand by, and the ratings across the board, it's only just Kojin who's lagging behind, and he is still above a 1.0, which is above average and even closer now to a 1.1, sitting at 0.8 currently. A lot of solid stats across the board, nobody going negative on their kill differentials, and I think that's what makes INC such a well-rounded team. Every single player can show up on game day and they can give those contributions, and especially having a player like Kojin on the support, he knows when he can carry his weight and he doesn't try to play any other role. He doesn't swing out or go aggressive when he doesn't have to. He waits in the objective and he lets the rest of the team do their job, something that, you know, a few teams inside of T3 could maybe use a little bit more of.
I mean, it's also not every day that you see a support who's 18-9 on entries. That's a very, very solid stat that he is boasting at the moment. In fact, he's doing better than Bone is at the moment. Yeah, there's a lot of players in this roster, very, very strong, very, very capable. It shows in a lot of their scorelines. Very rarely have they been pushed to an overtime, so yeah, it's understandable that they find themselves in this position. Overall standings, Lycus and Redux are still battling it out for that top place position, and it's a four-way battle to try and get themselves into third. It's so close. You know, one play day is all that's really separating, you know, InControl Nation, Pride, Wichita Wolves, and First Attempt from just breaking into that third place position. I think the only team that can't quite make it is First Attempt at the moment. But look, there's still a couple of weeks left to play here, Stick. There's still a couple of teams that could find their way into the top 6 and potentially knock out Wichita Wolves or First Attempt.
Definitely, and that's something else I wanted to talk about. As far as Visionary, their performance through the season, you know, maybe they haven't been able to secure the most wins, but for a large part, they've been able to keep their matches competitive. You can see the round differential, it's just -1. I mean, just in one single game, you could easily fix that and put yourselves a little bit closer up towards the top 6. Visionary have been really strong in some of their performances. We saw in the very first week, they played versus Lycus Empire, taking both of those games to a close infinite overtime, and that was a really strong statement to see them achieve, even though despite losing, they managed to secure the 1 point from both of those matches that you get for heading to overtime. Their week 2 performance was maybe a little bit shaky. It has to be put in context of their opponent, Hostile Action. Some have considered them kind of the underdogs, and they haven't had the most time in order to solidify their roster, though making some moves on that front recently. Their week 3 game was another standout performance in defeating the Wichita Wolves, taking an 8-6 on the first map, and even better, a 7-2 on the next one, which is certainly a telltale sign of their performance, and I'm really interested to see now, making a few roster moves, picking up this new player, if they'll be able to replicate some of those successes they had earlier in the season.
And coming to the prediction side of things, you can see there is a pretty heavy presence on the side of InControl Nation, aside from Chief, who really has been the standout caller when it comes to those. But yeah, look, there's no real competition here. The vast majority of the people behind the scenes at SCS, or the casters, or the production team, they are really, really backing InControl Nation to take this one away. Honestly, coming down to it, I again, unfortunately, have forgotten to do my predictions. I honestly believe this could go the way of a tie. Visionary, they've done a lot of work behind the scenes. Yes, those roster swaps have made it that much harder to gel, but at their core, they are a very, very competent team. They play a very, very solid game. Their players can clutch up when they need to. They do have that X factor that, you know, in those situations where it's a 1vx, 2vx situation, they can still pull it out of the bag. So there is potential for an upset in terms of the predictions at the very least here, but it's going to be an uphill battle.
Gotta agree with you there, and I think one of the most important factors to look at has got to be the performance of Visionary's new player. If they can come in with a consistent 5 and the coordination is all there, INC will be given a run for their money. But when you look over at the INC side of things, their roster has been solid and consistent through the entire duration of the regular season for SCS Season 4, and even further when you look back at their old core and their performance during the previous seasons of many other leagues. Specifically, one to bring up is INC's performance, I think, during SCL Season 4. They went flawless through the regular season, which was quite a feat, considering the massive level of competition within that league, and I think it does sort of extend here now that We've seen a few roster moves. They've got the old duo from Homeland Academy, and so that's been a bit of a shift here coming into the new era of this team. I think INC have got a pretty good margin to take this one, and that's why I booked my prediction. But again, it's all about the performance of that sub as well as the effect that the theme park takes out.
Yeah, speaking of performances, you can see the team stats on your screen. Some interesting ratings overall. Like talked about, the vast majority, in fact, the entirety of InControl Nation are sitting above that 1.0 mark, and that's the average is 1.0 that you're expecting. Wichita Wolves, they've had a couple of roster swaps. Iski coming in this week is going to be telling as to how well they can gel as a team, sitting fairly close to InControl Nation. Emergence. Look, it's the Goria show at the end of the day. He has been an absolutely insane player coming into this season. Unfortunately, the rest of the team hasn't quite been able to keep up with his momentum. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can close out the season, match the level of performance that he's bringing week in, week out, and potentially break their way into the top 6. So there's a lot coming in to Super Week that is going to be very, very telling going into the rest of the season. Otherwise, I mean, there's no real players that are amazingly at the top of the scoreboard. Goria really has just been huge. Most frags in a competitive match. He broke that record a few weeks back in that Infinite Overtime match against, I believe it was, I want to say Hostile Action, but I could be wrong. I think I'm wrong. I believe it was someone else. But there's a lot of unknowns coming into the rest of the season. There's a lot of teams that need to find that rhythm, find that mark. Otherwise, they are definitely going to be pushed towards the bottom of the table.
Sure, and another point that I'd like to mention here is INC's performance of Theme Park. We kind of talked about that as being the black sheep of the map pool. It doesn't get picked all too often. Because of that, teams don't have a consistent record to show as a marker of their performance. In fact, we've only seen Theme Park played one single time. It was in week 2 of their game versus First Attempt, and they managed to win 7-1. It was a dominant victory. I think the one mistake the First Attempt made was letting INC pick up the first defense. You never want to do that. Theme Park is so incredibly defender-sided. I talked about this yesterday over at CCS. The map plays very, very linear. There's not a whole lot of changes that you can get done on the map, and things tend to play out in a very samey way. It's easy to predict, and it's, because of that, somewhat easy to counter-strat. And I'm putting my bet that coming into this, INC would not have let Theme Park through if they knew that Visionary were feeling comfortable on the map, and considering the fact that INC has got their team staff, I'm sure Dash has put his effort into going back and watching Visionary's VOD in order to determine what they do. But another smaller facet to look at within that is because Visionary are playing with a new player, they're probably not going to run just the exact same strategy. So going back, taking a look at the film, and trying to directly counter-strat might not be the most valuable thing to do.
Yeah, he's that unknown factor coming into this week. Obviously, Slasher is now out of the main roster. Unfortunately, the young gun is just not fulfilling the requirements needed for breaking through in the Challenge League. So Marty's going to be an interesting factor coming into it. Oh, yeah, look, there's another team that has got a lot to prove coming into this week. Phantom Legion, they're newer to the competition. They're looking to step up and go absolutely huge here. But before we get into the map, there is something that we do need to talk about. Sick. Operator bans have been such a key part of this game, key part of the season. It's also going to be incredibly interesting to see how things play out going into the patch. And here we go, the new updated operator pick screen. We have ban rates as well. And look at that. There's already some interesting stuff on the board. 92% ban rate for Thatcher, 98% pick rate for Jaeger. There are already some standout players as well as that Sophia sitting up there at 93.6%.
And we can dig into that just a little bit deeper as far as the team stats. I've gone and done my research pretty consistently. We will see INC bring the Zoe and the Jaeger. So they're not really taking too much of a drastic turn away. In fact, I think in every single one of their rounds across all of their maps for INC, the Jaeger has been present. No bans as far as I'm aware. And it's just like, removing Jaeger is so much more difficult in what it inflicts, right? Because with the Wamai, you kind of just toss down his magnets here or there, but Jaeger, you kind of need to dedicate your ADSs to a specific position. It's not like we're with Wamai, you just pick one up, you chuck it out, it goes somewhere, and it'll take a gadget with it. No, with Jaeger, you're going to sit it down, and it's probably going to stay there for the large duration of the round unless your whole team decides to rotate the setup to a completely different side of the objective. And so maybe a Jaeger ban here from Visionary could throw INC off guard, but it all just has to come down to what effect that would have on the attack side, because when you don't have a Jaeger, sometimes frag grenades can become just a little bit more effective because no longer can you burn so much of that projectile utility. And so maybe that'll be the game plan here for Visionary. Ban out the Jaeger and lob a few frags within the bomb site.
Yeah, we see some interesting stats coming to the tail end of things. Dokkaebi has yet to be picked, which is something that I imagine will be changing going to the new season. Picking up those frag grenades, pairing it with a logic bomb, she is going to be an absolute powerhouse coming to the new season. So I anticipate some picks coming through for that. And on the rest of the board, nothing too crazy out of the ordinary. Clash bans, 8% so far in the season. It's a little bit more than we potentially anticipated, but we are going to be going into this match very, very, very soon. Kafe, map number 1 stick. What do you reckon the scoreline's going to be?
Well, that's hard to say. You've got Visionary beginning on the offense, which I think does give a bit of leeway, but they wouldn't have picked offense if they weren't prepared to get it done. Maybe Visionary has spent a little bit more time recently picking into this as far as scrims are concerned, maybe practicing some of their offensive takes, and so that's why they're going to let it through here. As far as the INC bans, there's nothing that's really too out of the ordinary. It doesn't really surprise me. We see the clubhouse or the consulate. It's never really been INC's territory. I think it's a smart move from Visionary to remove the Villa. INC has proven through their many roster iterations to pretty consistently be a strong Villa team, even despite some of the recent meta changes we've been seeing on the map, shifting previously from that, more defender-sided nature now to giving a bit of the edge to the attackers who are able to better equip themselves with some more consistent crossfires. But without further ado, we'll be getting into the operator ban so we can figure out who'll be vetoed on the wonderful Kafe Dostoevsky.
Oh yeah, game number 1 of the first match of Super Week. Visionary in the attack, InControl Nation on the defense here for Kafe Dostoevsky. Opening ban goes the way of InControl. Buck gonna be taken off the board. He's seen a few bans so far in the competitive season. Not surprised there, the verticality such a key part of this map. But I mean, look, Buck, he's really fallen out of grace with a number of teams. Yes, he's effective in clearing that floor from below, but 9 times out of 10, you attacking from above, a sledge is going to fulfill the job a little bit better.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that Buck a little bit more, because what I think INC are trying to do here is dissuade the new style recently we've seen become more favorable in attacking bar and cocktail up on the 3rd floor. And with a sledge, getting open the cocktail ceiling is not exactly the most easy task. A lot of teams, what they'll do is they'll set up pre-placed drones all across the 2nd floor, whether that be in mining, train, dining, or plainly reading itself, and then they'll move very quickly to take immediate control of the entire 2nd floor, lock off those rotates, and then transition into reading so that they can begin the process of vertical destruction inside of cocktail. And what that does is it eliminates one of the sole strongest positions that a defender can hold. Obviously, we've got the corner just near heaven called Maestro spot for the reason. It's because he always is sitting in that corner. And so I think INC are going to try to avoid that here, and maybe they think the reason why Visionary are bringing this attack side first is because they're feeling more comfortable and they've been rehearsing recently on that east side take.
Yeah, and rounding out those bans, Thatcher, no surprises whatsoever, but Wemai has seen a rather high priority in the ban phase, 57%, I believe it was, when we were looking at the stats. And Valkyrie, again, no surprises, 19% overall ban rating, has seen a little bit of love when it comes to that. 3rd floor, no surprises yet again. As we are going to be heading upstairs, you see on the roster, Marta is making his way and playing that, flank roam denial on this roster for Visionary. We'll see what he can do. Debut performance, debut round. He's got to go big here.
Well, we'll have that bar. We won't have to wait long to figure out what the attack execute will be from Visionary, and the Wamai ban should mean less of a focus on their defense as far as Pixel is concerned. But hey, maybe INC are going to just try to hold it a little bit looser. They've got ADSs from Bone, and that can protect the position for just a little bit of time. Usually when we don't see the pixel position held, if you don't lack, or if you rather do lack the Wamai, if he's been eliminated, what you'll instead do is station not only a shield there, but you'll also try to double down with some pressure from inside of Cocktail. We'll see both of the walls inside the bathroom and the freezer facing to Cigar Lounge have been reinforced. So you can't play that triple shield strategy that a lot of teams recently have gone to opt for, as well the crossfire that you can get to better protect your player inside a pixel by shooting from deeper within the freezer isn't a possibility. So this will be a pretty traditional defense so far, all things considered. We've got Salvage on the board. I want to say that's not a new player and just a creative Uplay, but perhaps we'll get some word from production. There was been recent issues, obviously, with Uplay, and so some people have been on different accounts, and if that is a new player, I've never heard of Salvage, so maybe that'll be an interesting factor to combo with having Martyr, previously playing on Hydrocore Gaming, coming in for Visionary.
Yeah, Exile, usually the 5th for InControl. Could be him, could be someone else. We will wait for that confirmation later. But you see, no impacts being brought, so they're not going to open up the bar, give themselves that long elbow. Well, they did. They used shotguns instead to do it, but there's a lot of positions that the defuse can now go down. Badger is going to be running that IQ as well. So all this gadgetry that the defenders are bringing is going to be scouted out well and truly as they are beginning up that utility dump, trying to get the player out of pixel. But look at this, you've got support and Cigar Shop. Never mind, Yusuke is going to run it out. He's going to pull himself back into the bar itself. Knows that there's players inside already. SMG-11 spray tags up Panic. He's being threatened from the hatch, but the aggressive swing from Panic opens things up, and that's exactly what you're looking for to start things off.
Just a brief confirmation, we actually have word. Salvage is Sherbull, previously known as the Sherbillionaire, as I like to call him. He hasn't been on a very a playing role recently. I think he's been mostly a sub slash maybe a little bit of a staffing for them here and there, but obviously, Exile not in play. That could have some effect. Sherbull was on the roster for a long time. He's very capable, and so I don't see any issues becoming of having him in play here. Panic will clear out this pixel position, breaking the shield in both the ADS. One player from Visionary rotating to apply some pressure to the Heaven window, it seems, on a repel. So far, INC, they suffered that early death of Yusuke, but the time burn has been mostly to their favor. Just so long as we can see them hold out for long enough within the objective and perhaps find a refrag to move this back into a 4-4 territory, they'll be able to persevere. But here comes the repel. Martyr will move on into the Heaven balcony. He's going to swing wide and catch the Maestro off guard, perhaps for a second on the long angle. You've got the Malusi waiting deeper inside of Tarp. The plant will begin from Abadu, and locking off Pixel Rotate is a big play to make here. If they can deny this plant, that would be crucial, but Visionary managed to get it down. Kojin onto Panic now. It's a 4v3, just made a little bit difficult now as Jimmy Buckets finds Kojin. Martyr onto Nevo, and it's just Bone left inside the bathroom to find this clutch. And with 4 Visionary attackers, well, it just doesn't seem all that likely. But Bone, can he find just 2 more now as Martyr and Jimmy are both cut down? They're going to play a passive. Visionary making the smart decision. The IQ reveals her position, but Badger wins it anyway. The G8A1 connects with the head of Bone as INC will fall on the first round.
And so will the rehost. That will fall as well, unfortunately. A sound bug has been called. We're waiting on confirmation, so it's not locked in just yet. But what a round we saw there, Stick. It came down to execution. They found the opening kill onto Yusuke. They locked him out, who would have been a key player in shutting down that push inevitably with a Nitro Cell with the M590. From there, they executed in a way where they had multiple angles of egress. They got a player onto Cocktail balcony. They shut down the Maestro, who was a great deterrent for that plant. They locked Smoke into Washroom. So Abadu was free to do what he wanted. He got that plant down. The angles were all locked down. And eventually, the frags came the way of Visionary. All that was left was Bone. And despite a solid effort, he found 2. He almost found a 3rd as he swung onto the player at top red. But that was a very, very clean execute that was very cohesive out of Visionary. And if that is what they're bringing here, I 100% see this potentially going their way. More probably a tie, but this map is looking a little bit scarier for InControl Nation.
Especially with this being INC's pick coming into this, Visionary with a very strong statement, making sure that INC knows who's boss on that top floor bomb site. I wouldn't be surprised for InControl to rotate immediately now and maybe attempt something other than the bar. It seemed there were some structural issues in play from their objective. They didn't have the proper intel to deny the plant, as you mentioned, and with the lack of a pixel hold, it becomes very considerably it's problematic to deny that plant. The Maestro fell after a very aggressive peek in by the Nomad, and I think as a result of that, planting the diffuser was almost guaranteed for Visionary. You couldn't swing in from Pixel because they were holding a perfect crossfire. You couldn't really get a Nitro off because there was nobody with that utility in position inside of the freezer, and so as a result, the plant went down, which led from Visionary being in a shaky position with an uncertain man advantage to playing that passive as you should and making sure that in the end of things, Bone wasn't given too many 1v1 gunfights.
Yeah, I mean, Mana definitely had a great start to the season here, joining this Visionary roster. He played his angles, he won his gunfights, he almost took that long-range contest onto the Malusi at top. Well, I believe he got that gunfight in the end, but they executed that to perfection. They didn't lose any key members until the plant had already gone down. That was when, you know, the smoke Cogent was able to find the SMG-11 spray, but it was too little too late at the situation. The fact that they locked down their angles so aggressively that no one could contest onto the plant going down speaks to their confidence coming into this. Like, they had a player looking into backstock, they had a player steering all the way down like corridor, they had Cocktail locked down as well. Abadu was unbelievably safe in that situation. So yeah, I don't doubt that they will be rotating off to a different bomb site. The question is, do they head down to the first floor? Do they head to the second floor? Because with a cohesive approach like that, we could definitely see them being able to contest InControl Nation on either of those bomb sites. We have the rehost done. We're going to be back into it. We're getting things done nice and quick here on day one of Super Week, and as we get into the second round, the bomb site is going to be incredibly telling as to how this plays out. And it's going to be Kitchen. They're heading all the way downstairs. We need to see something vastly different come out of this InControl Nation team.
Yeah, they will have to make a very large switch up here. I think what we'll be seeing is the kitchen site, and that's confirmed now, locked in. The presence of the Clash, something to talk about. So perhaps we'll see the shielded lady stationed inside of kitchen prep with the objective of holding back the onslaught of the Visionary attack. Abadu with a late 6 pick, he jumps over from the ace onto the thermite, and so with those exothermics in pocket, that hard breach utility becomes just a little bit more scarce. One thing to watch here, we know INC are aggressive, and when you only decide to bring a singular hard breach, your gadgetry can go down very quickly. And if Abadu gets shut down on an early aggressive spawn peak by INC, Visionary will be left in a bad spot. And without their hard breach commander, Abadu falling, I don't think there's really a good world where we see them being able to form a successful execute. We'll see the castle barricade tossed over here by the small bakery. We traditionally would come to expect that. Yusuke will draw up the reinforcements there on the dining wall, ostensibly with the goal to protect the vertical play, or maybe what we'll see instead is an INC extension, a la something like a Clubhouse SSG roam. With castle barricades, reinforcements, and a very strong off-site pressure, INC are going to burn the clock by occupying the second floor.
Yeah, I mean, look, the only thing this setup is missing is a moat. Honestly, they've set themselves up. It's a castle that is going to have to be breached here by Visionary. You see the depth of roam upstairs. They've locked out the second floor as well. They're just making it as hard as possible to get that vertical control, which is so key on a like Kafe, Dostoevsky, but no breach denial. Nothing of the sort as they've left bakery wall into service open, and that's the first frag. Salvage goes down. Jimmy Bucket's opening up with a big kill onto the vertical angles. They don't know that Bone is there in support as well, and so the refrag comes. Panic is the unfortunate trade as Kojin just in the right place to stall out that pressure, and Jimmy looking to punish where he can. They've also gotten that bakery wall open largely for free, and this poses an interesting situation for InControl. They've got lines of sight into the bomb site. They can get themselves in, but oh no, unfortunately, Navozo, he's in position to play off of that shield. And what looked like a great start for Visionary has largely been undone as Bone chimes in with yet another double kill for him. They punish the player, jump halfway up red. Yusuke to connect onto Badger, and last player, Abadu, We've seen him clutch up before, but unfortunately when there's a zappy shield running at you and all that threat of the gunplay coming out from the defenders, there was no hope whatsoever.
Well, it seems INC have been hiding away some of their prepared strats for the Kafe pick, bringing this in just today, the first time we've seen it from them all season, according to the wonderful statistics provided by the SCS Storm Stats crew. And what a strong defense from them. It looked like it was going towards the danger zone with Mr. Jimmy Buckets opening it up onto Sherb. But after that, INC said it was all over, but the crying with a bunch. A real thicket of back-to-back frags, shutting down any hope for Visionary to execute, even despite their ability to move quickly in that dispersal of utility. The exothermic onto the wall, the bakery looked like the major changing times, and it would have allowed them some pressure to apply, but INC performed excellently on their vertical game, shutting down any possibility for Visionary to aggress onto the objective itself, and because of that initial leverage, Visionary failing to go for a top-down clear, INC find a whole lot of success and take round 2.
Yeah, they just played their angles. Jimmy got a rather fortunate opening frag through that vertical angle. They were very, very able to read into that. But speaking of reading into it, Yusuke bringing something that hasn't been seen for a good portion of the tournament. I think if I remember correctly, Mira has has been involved in 318 of 698 rounds played so far. So definitely had been hit by that ban hammer more often than not. But there's so much that she enables on the defense when she's available. This third floor hold for a second floor bomb site is going to be that much harder for Visionary to contest here. Their initial take of the third floor in round number 1 onto the third floor bar cocktail bomb site was very, very solid. Their angles were fairly competent. They really just straight up win their gunfights more often than not, and so it's going to be interesting to see how they approach this. Are they going to be able to contest when that mirror is on the, when those windows are providing that freedom for Bone to actually contest? Well, they're already contesting. The drones are there. Not quite the castle that we saw in round number 2, but this is still a very formidable defense.
We'll have to wait as far as the results and the efficacy of Visionary's top floor clear. With the mirror on the board, as you mentioned, she does see a whole lot of bans, but when she is in play, Mira changes the way that you play this site and allows you to burn off the clock in a very special way. We've got the roam downstairs. Sherb waiting inside of train. The nitro in the hand. It's launched up but doesn't connect. Nobody from VSN waiting inside of cigar shop. A frag grenade will be launched around the corner. It's uncertain whether or not Bones ADS captured it or if it flew on through and we just didn't catch it. With no signs of scorch marks, I believe that it was wasted. So that's one frag off the board. And Visionary now having very much trouble attacking inside a cigar, I think are beginning to give up. With a minute and 30 already having been transpired, taking control of that top floor seems like a bleak future. Instead, a rotate from VSN to try and attempt what I like to call the train bypass.
That's what they're looking to do. They're trying to go the long way around, get themselves set up for that execute frag grenade being prepped and ready to be thrown into reading. Unfortunately, Salvage, sure, he's not playing in that corner. Not going to find much of anything there as Panic decides better of it at the end of the day. But you look at Navozo in on the big flank from behind. Might catch the player on Cigar Balcony. Sees him turn at the last second. Oh, unfortunately, Badger just caught watching the wrong angle. Marta able to refrag out, gives some vengeance to his fallen compatriot. But losing out on an IQ when there's so much gadgetry on the board could be a little bit rough with 34 seconds left to play. Kojin finds the long-range shot onto Abadu, contesting onto the diffuser. This is looking bleak for Visionary. Salvage goes down. Sherv dropped by that L8 of Panic, and we're in a 3v3 with 20 seconds left.
The mirror still yet to completely been cleared from the top floor. She's proving to be a real pest. Panic will fall. Martyr goes down, and it's just Jimmy Buckets. He's got to find 3. He gets 2, a double for himself. But Bone is still holding these vertical angles. Jimmy will rotate, holding the soft mirror. The hatch is open. The escape route is there, and the diffuser will soon be completed. But Jimmy has so little health, and the Zoe will be forced to rotate. Bone comes on in, but Jimmy flies down the hatch, making himself scarce as the Sophia will open this vertical angle. But where does Jimmy go? I think he's going to stick this below. He's got 2 concussions left, a big factor that'll stall out the animation just so long as Jimmy plays this right. Here we go, the first one. Bone keeps bailing off the plant, further delaying this time, and it looks like Visionary may have locked out their chances in the round. Bone, he continues. It's off and on, off and on. Nearly 15 seconds here. There's still 1 concussion left. Bone finally decides. It fails, though. Can Jimmy find it? Yes, he can. The M762 Visionary clean it up off the back of a 1v3 clutch from Jimmy Buckets.
Jimmy has been, unfortunately, sitting at the bottom of the standings for this Visionary roster for the majority of the season, but what a pull that he managed in that round. Pulls out the clutch off of the back of the diffuser and just plays the clock perfectly. Holds the concussions, uses them to stall out the play, and when there was no other option left, Bone had to stick on the plant, and Jimmy just walks in, guns him down. 2 rounds on the board now for Visionary, and been a very, very solid showing so far. Third floor coming out once again. And if we see history repeat itself here, Stick, as it doesn't look like it's going to be. 6th pick onto the Finca. This is something that hasn't seen a huge amount of play. Has been there, but that is a bold change coming the way of Visionary.
Bold is exactly the right word to use as a descriptor, and perhaps what Visionary have in mind is more of a rush strat compared to their past 3 very measured attacks. INC in that previous round did a very good job on the time burn. They forced Visionary to try and attempt a top floor clear, but halfway through it, Visionary said it's time to give up and go the other way around. INC forfeiting control of that mirror, I think, was a big part in the round, and INC also making themselves fully available for Jimmy to gun them down. If they had just played it safer, held strong on the bomb side, and failed to give the Zofia those 1v1 fights, I think we might have been seeing a different result with INC taking the round advantage. But because what they did was kind of the INC game, they tried to go peek, everybody wanted to find their frags, things didn't work. Here comes the first sign of the push. The SASG 12 shotgun in the hands of Panic. It'll be a full send up these stairs. One player is prone. They're spotted out. Bone goes down without so much as a peep, even despite the presence of Malusi's Banshee alerting to Panic's arrival. We'll see one of the Finca boosts is used, and a frag grenade is launched. Yusuke goes down. I don't think he was quite ready for that explosive to come up below, and so 2 now for the Finca as Panic is making his presence felt. INC on the back foot.
Jimmy's going to follow up with a kill onto Devozo. This is what happens when Buck is banned out. They go for a different approach. Panic on a triple in the round. It's all down to Cogent. He guns down Jimmy Buckets, the big clutcher from the previous round. But in the 1v4, with a lot of pressure onto the bomb site, Toxic Canister onto top white. Cogent, he's got very few options available to him. There's a player sitting on Cocktail Balcony prone, ready to contest the angle. Drone comes up. He swings on. Can he find much of anything? Yes, he can. Marta goes down. That SMG-11 is just an absolute powerhouse of a weapon. Down into Laundry. He's playing the angles. Unfortunately for him, that pistol is just a little bit better in those clutch angles. And Panic with a massive 4K in the round. That was revolutionary coming out of this team.
Well, the way the Visionary are playing this is not the typical style of a Kafe assault, but why switch it up here with 3 rounds in the bag? He's clutch, and now a solid round from Panic. They've got a good bank built up, and INC are forced to try and switch this one around. Perhaps maybe Kafe wasn't the map to pick for them after all, as the strategies that they're implementing haven't been able to carry them to much success. Kitchen will come up again. We saw this being the only round INC have won thus far in round number 2, and it was off the back of that SSG-style extension inside of the 2nd floor. And with the same relative operator picks, I don't imagine anything will be dramatically changing. Sherb tosses up 1 castle barricade onto the whiskey bar double door, and we've got this same deployable camera ostensibly outlining the strat book. Another one will go down. The castle barricade to lock off the wedding rotate, as Sherb will rotate the rest of the crew approaching the top floor in order to more better establish their control. INC have got to get this kitchen defense under their thumb, because to fail in such a dramatic fashion on their defensive split is a bad sign for Kafe, especially when they're supposed to come into this and be the team that is having the most success. And to talk about the round economics for a brief moment, traditionally on Kafe, we expect to see the defenders be at 4-2 at the split, but that's not what's going on, and the way that Visionary are playing is very hard to counter-strat against. INC have got their hold set up here, so we'll have to wait just a moment. As far as the result of this attack, a fairly similar composition from Visionary.
Yeah, it's one of those things that separates the good teams from the great teams, that flexibility and those, you know, tight situations, you know, back against the wall. They really weren't sure how that defense was going to play out. Buck wasn't available, so the second time round they say, look, you know what works just as well as the Buck and also has those frag grenades? Thinker. And wow, what a showing that Panic gave us off on that one. But now we're coming down to kitchen defense. Yusuke, he's heard the footsteps, might be able to swing on to a player close on white, but no, they're just, at the moment, a lot of presence. Visionary has been a team that prioritizes getting into the building early, establishing that pressure with plenty of time left available to them. In fact, three of the 4 rounds played so far have been planted. Well, the round has been played out with the bomb diffuser going down, so it's going to be interesting to see if we see that trend carry on here. But you already see the pressure that has been given up by InControl. They've all, well, the majority of those deep roamers have pulled back down onto the first floor. They're looking to contest some of those angles on towards VIP down there, and see Boney's going to follow up where Yusuke went. They're giving up that vertical control this time around. And I think this is coming off the back of the fact that Visionary have read this incredibly well. They understand how much vertical pressure InControl was prioritizing. And this is what happens when you go same strat back-to-back on the same bomb site.
Exactly right. And INC, I think, have lost their advantage here. Ooh, it's close for Panic, taking a big blow from ostensibly the castle, holding dearly on the stairs. Nevo will open this up. He gets the nitro off on the Badger, who unfortunately, despite having the electronics detector, didn't see that C4 coming. But Visionary at least have made the necessary change, the one I suggested to be more effective in the previous round, and that's to go for this top-down clear. But INC have still managed to waste a substantial amount of time. There's more roam pressure yet to be cleared. Jimmy Buckets moves in, down and confirmed. It's almost a missed opportunity. Panic will swiftly get that refrag despite being on low health. Sherb tries to sit prone inside reception. He falls, the castle gun down, and now Panic opens up a light of sight onto Bone playing back at red. Holding the angle dearly here. It's a shield, but a frag grenade lobbed into coat check. Panic doesn't check the corner. He dies as a result. Abadu, though, and moving closer to the bomb site. It's almost a TK there for Abadu. We'll see Bone gun down one. Can Abadu close it out? He's wrapping the corner with pistol in hand, but Bone moves up close to secure the triple kill, and the bag goes the INC way.
Bone, he's the clutch king, going up against the clutch king of Visionary. Abadu, we've seen him go for those big 1v3 plays previously. This time around, he couldn't quite do it. Bone, I think, was looking for a bit of revenge, given how that last round played out, and with Panic just running up white stairs, and gunning him halfway up with that Sega. So this time around, they bring it back. It's looking very, very likely that it will be that 3-3 half split. But as we head to reading once again, this is an interesting approach. Are we going to see the same holds coming out of InControl Nation? And that's exactly what it's looking like at the moment. And if you remember, it came down to that clutch situation with Jimmy, and he was still able to pull it out at the end of the day. I think InControl Nation, they need to give themselves some more breathing room, because if they find themselves in the 1v1 again, they haven't proven that they can clutch it out.
At least they've got somewhat of a consolation prize here with INC collecting 2 rounds. If they can win this next one, I think there'll be an easier task laid out ahead of them. It'll still be a long road, and if INC do not perform well and come out of the side split with an initial and very telling performance on their attacks, there will be, frankly, a lot of room for, I think, Visionary to breathe, and INC are going to have a big struggle if this ends 4-2, because that puts Visionary within a 3-round gap, well within the reserve of what we come to expect for a defensive Kafe performance. And then INC have got to face the other daunting task ahead of them. Theme Park, the second map, being Visionary's pick. So maybe VSN, they've done some more strat work previously, or maybe what we will have is one of those very awkward series where the first team lose their map pick and end up winning their opponent. So we have a bit of a reversal of fortunes, a switcheroo, as to say.
Well, speaking of losing, it's Navozo to take the first damage in the round. Unfortunately, those shotguns are unfortunate, or even more unfortunate. They lost Sherb very, very early on. One of the nitros as he went for that peak and VIP entrance. But yeah, having lost 1.5 players effectively already, with just over 2 minutes left to play, this is going to put InControl Nation at a bit of a deficit. Jimmy, well and truly stepping up despite what the stats say, has put in a monumental performance after this rehost even. And with that, Visionary, they're gearing themselves up. Another kill, Kojin goes down. They're just stringing them together here. This is looking absolutely dire for InControl. At least they get one back. Abadu goes down. 2! As Yusuke connects onto Panic to bring it back even. Badger finally gets himself involved in the server. But it's a 2 versus 1. 3 versus 1 now, sorry. As Jimmy finds the return. Jimmy just going absolutely massive this time round.
Been a strong performer so far in these first 6 rounds already, with an above 1 KPR as Yusuke sneaks around the corner. Here he comes. The IQ may be caught off guard, and Yusuke will get this frag, so at least securing this one. Martyr, though, has moved into Cocktail, and Yusuke might not fully be aware of this. The rotate, he'll drop down inside a pillar as the mirror will rotate close. A nitro cell is launched under the door, and it'll down Jimmy buckets. He'll have to withstand or be revived by his teammate as Yusuke rounds the corner, and he'll get it. It's a triple kill. Can he confirm it? Jimmy's back up and in the fight. Does he know? The mirror gets it to Zoe on such low health. INC will emerge from the half in a massive comeback to secure them to 3-3.
Yusuke is the unsung hero of this InControl Nation team. We don't talk about him a hell of a lot, but I think this man has been involved in some of the biggest plays for this InControl Nation teams that we've seen so far. The nitro cell under the door, takes down Jimmy just inside the doorway, finds the kill onto Marta, who's sitting behind the couch. Just consistency across the board, wins it out, secures the 3-3 half, and I said, you know, InControl Nation didn't look like they had that clutch potential. They've made me eat my words there with a hell of a round to round out the half. And now we see the change-up. This is going to be interesting. Securing a 3-3 half on the attack, that's exactly what you're looking for. And now, as we see Visionary head onto the defense, is this the turning point? Are we going to see them start to string more and more rounds together and push themselves over the edge? Or are we just going to see InControl Nation play off of their superior capabilities and close this map out?
It's a great question to pose here, and I think INC have the most pressure in answering it. Because on the attack, it's a game of being assertive, and if INC fail to do so, they're going to burn out the clock just a little bit more than they would like. Ideally, in this first round, I'd like to see INC go for a bit of a top-down clear, force through, enter from the hatch, and then slowly move on down to make sure you can eliminate any potential for a Visionary roam. You've got the sledge in order to apply some vertical pressure. That'd be Sherb. You want to protect him, make sure that he doesn't suffer and go down. Jimmy's got an interesting little mute jammer there to protect the VIP wall, not something we see protected all too much. And his VIP hold is also joined by a shield at the doorway. The ADS to protect it. This is a fairly common hold from Visionary, or from really any defensive Kafe team. When you don't want to go for a full roam presence on the second floor, or even the third, what you'll do is you'll play loosely off of the objective down on the first floor. Sometimes what that is this VIP hold with someone supporting from inside of coat check, or other times we'll see a defender behind the bakery bar with ADS to protect them. With the Wamai ban, it's hard to do both for Visionary because one area is immediately suffering from a lack of supplies, and if you don't have the proper amount of ADSs, you'll have to dedicate even less so to the objective itself, which, with a fast INC take, could mean that they suffer once it gets down for the time to push into the site and complete the execute.
The other thing they're now battling up against, Panic, is playing on the Jaeger. He's, you know, the deep roamer for the team. He thrives on this aggressive play on the defense. So he's definitely something that InControl Nation need to be wary of and find an answer to, because if Panic can find that momentum, if he can string together 1 or 2 frags, he can really just spiral out of control. At the moment, we see early pressure down to this first floor as they head into the second half of the round, so they have potential to go for that execute with plenty of time left. Sherby's going to be on that vertical control, as you would expect for a sledge, but there's so many angles they need to now contest. No one has died yet. As deeper and deeper into the round, they're trying to find the angles, find the play, trying to find some sort of opening that will allow them to kick the door down, and that's exactly what they found. Voza finds Abadu losing a Maestro. That's a rough spot to be in.
There'll be another one, as now Kojin has eliminated the VIP hold. Panic now himself in a bit of a worry, goes for an attempt at a pre-fire, but stalled out by another concussion. He'll be stifled in this attempt. INC with a large man advantage here, and now an avenue to approach the bomb site. The garage and freezer wall is open, and Badger is forced back deeper within. We'll see Panic's position now revealed. An air jab on the red stairs will detonate, so ostensibly INC will rotate some coverage in order to make sure that gets eliminated. But Badger gets Navozo, and it doesn't seem like they know that Panic is coming up here. Salvage now will fall. It's another one, though, as Yusuke is making his presence inside the bomb site. A rotate attempted here. Badger is cut down, and it's just Panic left alive to deny this plant. Looking for anything on the vertical hold. He just misses one of the INC attackers as they flee from that diffuser position. Now to hold things passively outside in the garage. Panic has got plenty of health to make this work, but the bars, the metal beams in the floor are obstructing his gun sights, and he won't be able to confirm that kill, much less any significant damage. It's Kojin who gets the headshot, and INC emerge victorious out of the first half.
Yeah, and unfortunately, as much as Panic has been a rock-solid member of this team, the unfortunate counter to Rock is Steel type, as everyone who plays Pokemon knows. It's super effective, and those steel bars, he just couldn't find the angles through them. Kojin able to connect. He just translates it into that big win. There's been so many plants so far in this series alone. We head into round number 50% of the rounds so far, well, exactly 50% as we head into round number 8, have resulted in a plant going down. And third floor bomb site is going to be the play. It looks like we might even see the Italian duo make its way in. Alibi and Maestro currently on the board, and no sixth pick going to be happening here. So that's an interesting position for Mata, who so far has been consistently stepping up in his debut. I would be very interested to know where they're looking to prioritize this.
I think there was a little bit of team damage there on the Badger, so he's not giving, he's not getting any thanks for his attempt in the clutch for the previous round, and his rotate, rather, as he was caught after INC, so no doc on the presence here either for VSN, so he will remain at less than 100 health, but I don't imagine it will be the most show-stopping. One thing to talk about surely here is the presence of Panic with the FO12. That Ellis shotgun is quite a monster, and it can deal a lethal blow to any attacker that dares get in its way. For now, I think Panic will use it mostly to complete the site setup. We saw him open up the walls traditionally expected here inside a freezer, as well the angle to watch from Pixel onto the default plant location. Panic doing even more site setup. He'll melee off some of the Shaiko spot railings over by the B-bomb chassis. Visionary are going to have to stem the tide here. Letting INC approach round number 5 would not be splendid and would put them within reach of snagging that match point. Yusuke drones in through the hell door, making sure that nobody is down here, and perhaps what we'll see is, instead of going for the east to west, second floor clear, all of the INC members stationed outside this door, in fact the entire team minus Bone on the rappel just to the left, will try to push into this angle. Yusuke moves in. He's still worried about this player. I think is that Ella, the pistol in hand, over on the new drop? That's a very risky game to be playing here, especially now that you've got Kojin on this rappel, who could get a very lucky frag, and shutting down Panic early would remove a bit of a concern. That FO12, which we already established, is so powerful.
Now he's going in to cocktail. It's going to force Everdoo off the angle as Kojin's threatening, but it's Yusuke to open up. Finds him from below. Multi-pronged approach, dealing with that Maestro yet again. Everdoo really struggling on this defense so far. 10 kills for Yusuke under the belts. Chirp, he's yet to get on the board. Frag grenade, sorry, not Nitro. Largely the same, but a little bit more mobile. Badger finds a frag onto Navozo, but at the cost of a... He's sitting at the moment. And you look at the setup from InControl Nation. They are coordinating this attack as cleanly as possible. Multiple angles being watched. Kojin, he was sitting on that cocktail balcony window. He now heads up to the skylight, trying to cut off any rotates through the site itself, and they're looking for that execute again. InControl Nation have given themselves plenty of time to work with here. But in a 4v4, the Nitro Cell comes out from Jimmy, unfortunately not connecting off of the back of that. And this is looking very, very good. I say that as bad there to for his trouble. It was looking solid for InControl Nation. It's better. Yusuke denied the ace there by Kojin on the swing in, but a very, very commanding round off of that entry player for InControl Nation.
Where do you go now here as Visionary? You're going to rotate, attempt that kitchen defense again? We saw how swiftly their lurk presence on the first floor was shut down and canceled completely by the INC attack. That third floor didn't work out too splendidly either, and INC now take a 2-round advantage, keeping themselves at arm's length from Visionary, who managed to fight very well on that first split. But we saw the reaction that INC were able to make when they were suffering from some good Visionary attacks. We saw it was 3-1 exiting the fourth round, and still INC managed to string together 2 at the end to make it worth their while. But INC taking this next round would mean the possibility for Visionary to take a decisive win to earn the 3 points on this map of Kafe would be eliminated, and INC would at least guarantee themselves that one pity round, or the pity point. What we'll see next here is the tertiary objective. INC proved a masterful use of the time waste on this site, and even despite that, still, it was Jimmy Buckets who managed to get that big 1v3 post-plant clutch, baiting out INC and getting all the kills necessary to complete it here. Visionary gotta watch out for INC, who have got all the players who could do the same and can frankly simulate the performance we saw from Jimmy, and maybe even better so now with Yusuke 13 kills in hand, only 3 deaths to his name, a powerful stat line here just through to the 9th round of Kafe Dostoevsky.
On the defense, we see a pulse being brought out here by Mana, so obviously looking for some of that vertical contest coming up. 3 Nitro cells as well on the board, so they forked out for the family pack at the very least, going for as much data as possible. And it's exactly what you need in this situation. Those Nitro can come in absolutely huge panic. He's playing in bar, ready to contest onto the skylight, but the threat from the hatches is imminent right now as the drones are just flooding in. His position is known. He's found 3 for his trouble at the very least, but it's Marta to open things up. Finds the frag onto Bone, using that UMP-45. Just guns him down. Absolutely aggressive on that angle from Mining Museum. He's going to sit himself down, jump on that cardiac sensor, and start feeding information. That is exactly what Visionary needed to kick off this defensive round.
We saw it was those 2 opening frags in the previous round that spearheaded the INC attack. Navozo cutting down Avenue on the kitchen, and Yusuke finding Avenue again on that 3rd floor attempt. And now Yusuke, despite his young gun prophecy and his strong performance as we saw through this 1st and 2nd split, he will be additionally 1 member to fall. Frag grenade is lobbed in here by Kojin, looking to try and dislodge the cocktail hold, but it's INC who suffer the attrition of facing this big obstacle. Still, you've got vertical pressure being applied below. Martyr with the cardiac sensor in hand. We'll see the SMG-11 pushed and pulled out, but Jimmy Buckets falls. It's the M4 Kojin collects now. We'll see another one in the smoke. Tempts his luck. Avenue with a gas canister in hand thinks not and double checks and tosses it back in the pocket. Now a 3v3. It's well within possibility for INC to stake their comeback here. Visionary, what they elect to do is hold completely off objective. Panic is waiting down by pillar. Another one inside of train, and the last defender holding that common corner cam spot. Visionary have got to get something going for themselves here. Otherwise, INC are likely to drop down soon and get this plant. What they don't know is that Panic is waiting in dark corner. He'll swing out. He finds Kojin down the confirm now. A double kill for him. Make that a third. It's a triple all across the board. And the Jaeger cannot be stopped. INC's hopes of the clutch are looking impossible here. The SMG for sure, but he doesn't get it. It's a quadra kill for Panic R6. It's Visionary take round 9.
And this is where Panic thrives. When he is unknown, when he is unseen, he can just pull this out of the bag. 4 kills in the round, 2 of them from Dark. One of them, he pushed up a little bit, so it wasn't too far into the realms that he was in the same spot, but that's exactly what you're looking for. Let Panic play his own game. Give him the room to breathe, and he is a terrifying force for any attacking roster. As we now head into round number 10, 1 round difference between things being tied up for the first time since we headed into the half. And Kitchen is the bomb side of choice. We see Arcade coming out, so they're doubling down on that breach denial with the mute and the electro claws as well, but also with that castle where you're probably going to see that extended hold once again. A player in VIP lounge, they're going to spread this themselves as much as they can and let Panic play on that roam again.
Well, we've got a Twitter conversation currently going on between Sherble himself and Exile, who's not in play here, so maybe he could use a little bit more focus on the game, the sledge for himself, and he's just not had the strongest fight so far. But INC, they're still at 5-4. The match point looks possible, but with Visionary, a strong reaction and a very competent hold in that previous reading vertical extension, I think are going to take this next round as well. The Kitchen defense was championed by INC's opening pick to shut down both Abadu, previously on that Cade roll, and also eliminating the presence of the mute inside of VIP. This round, things will, I think, play out a bit differently. You've got Jimmy with a mute jammer placed to obscure the drone hole, so INC will have to take another route, but Panic, he will be holding vertically inside of the bar, maybe looking to catch out an early attacker here. A missed drone could go their way, and that could be a good opener to get things going.
He's an absolute powerhouse when he can roam freely. And again, drones coming in, he's just going to chew them up and get rid of them. But the pressure is there, already well established. Look at the drones he's finding. The economy coming out of InControl is just being dwindled further and further. 5 of them already off the board with 2 minutes to play, so only 50% of their drones left. And that's exactly what you're looking for if you're Visionary. You want to deny as much information as possible. You want to be able to control that verticality as well, stop them from pressuring from above, and that's exactly what Jimmy and Panic are doing at the moment. 2 of the standout players in this Playday for Visionary, and if they can find an opening frag, if they can translate some sort of advantage here, no realms of possibility where they don't even things up here. They're looking very, very solid. Both teams coming to play today, and we thought this was going to be potentially an absolute blowout from InControl Nation. But Visionary, they've found their stride so far. They're looking very, very solid. They could definitely give them a run for their money. But as we head into the second half of the round, Panic's going to be tagged. This is where the contest really starts to play out.
Still, this is yet to be cleared here. It's Yusuke caught off guard. Almost some team damage, but Panic on the rotate finds Sherb. Now it'll be Visionary in the 5v3, and INC without much to say for it. Panic has managed to rotate now, taking up the position of the attackers, dropping the hatch. He spots the Ash, but does the sound call come out as the player charges up the stairs? We'll see one goes down. It's confirmed at the dying moments there from Bone, but Nevo with the swift refrag now. Him and Kojin tag up inside the garage. A swing across to shut down a wonderful reaction shot, but they forgot to check for additional defenders. Badger testing his luck at swing after swing, eventually now realizes the mistake and he'll fall back. Kojin on such low health with 30 seconds to go has got to get something working his way. 3 gas canisters for Martyr. That's plenty of time to burn off the clock. A castle barricade still stands in his path. A frag grenade could get this open, or perhaps he'll use the rotate as the defenders have set up, but they have the perfect crossfire. Still, Badger waits on the red stairs. Kojin's aware of this and is time to get this plant down and clutch. The round burns down further and further. The gas canister detonated. Kojin admits defeat. Falling back further, We'll see him toss a frag grenade, his final foray, but the time hits 000, and that's Visionary with round 10, who managed to tie it up.
Someone called the Parks and Rec department. This playground is full of swings, so coming into this, there's been a lot of aggression, a lot of misdroning coming out here from InControl Nation on their attacking half. The fact that we saw Yusuke push past down yet white stairs and be punished in the way that he was. In fact, we saw 3 of the 5 deaths of InControl Nation all on white stairs. They were so heavily punished from that position by Visionary on the defense. We're evened up as we head to third floor once again. You've got to wonder what InControl Nation need to do to push themselves over the edge here. We see Panic back on his pocket once again. It's Ella with the FO12. I have no doubt in my mind. As, yeah, it's going to be confirmed. Abadu picks up the smoke instead. They obviously prioritize it a little bit more here, given how impactful it has been for the defense. But this is going to be a telling round. Who moves to map point first? Who then has the option to close out the series? InControl Nation, they are being pushed to their absolute limits here in this series.
Visionary have played really well so far, and you've got to commend them to bring themselves to their opponent's pick. Because Kafe is looking great, and I don't see any sign of stopping. Visionary moving over to Theme Park would be a completely different tale, and we've got a tweet coming up here from Martyr. He's excited to play his first game in SCS today, and then his second on a completely different meta out of the blue at all a day later. So that will be a bit of whiplash there for the new player added to Visionary in their second game of the Super Week. We'll have to see how that turns out. Personally, I'm really excited to see how the new meta develops. It has been a bit stale, admittedly, seeing the utility meta play out time after time, and has led us with some results that are fairly predictable. See an INC stack up again. They tried this previous execute and it worked wonders. They were able to shut down the vertical play last time Visionary attempted the bar hold. It was Yusuke to collect Abadu, but since that round, Yusuke hasn't been able to do much. In fact, shut down twice by the Visionary defense. They've got to make sure that Visionary doesn't get this going again. The ball has to stay in their court if INC want this to work. And Yusuke, already it seems, suffering from a concussion a little bit. Panic is off the FO12. Instead, this time, he'll be bringing the Scorpion. Shoots up in the balcony. Might have just been spotted, though, so INC have got some intel about this. A frag grenade is lobbed in, but we'll see Abadu. He rotates to play it more safe.
The lead-spitting maelstrom that is the Scorpion Evo. The gun is just absolutely insane, and if you can control that recoil, it really is just powerhouse. And speaking of powerhouse, unfortunately, Abadu is not this. Yet again, taken out on this third floor hold. One of the pivotal operators in the defense gone. Smoke down, but Marta, he gets a confirmation back onto Sherb. Navozo takes down Badger, and again, it's just a game of who can swing harder. Yusuke finds Panic. They're just shutting down the defense. InControl Nation are looking good to push themselves to map point here. It's 2 versus 4. Yusuke's still alive. He's looking for his 15th frag if he can find it. But Marta just whiffs the spray onto Nevo. Gunned down by that ARX. And unfortunately, no chance in the upside down rappel. Jimmy Buckets goes down. InControl Nation move to map point here. They're looking to defend their map pick. And one more round, they could do it flawlessly without giving up a point.
Here we go for InControl Nation. They had a bit of a misstep in those previous 2 rounds, but it's a big cleanup for the INC attack as they move further to that match point, as you said, and they are primed and ready to take this here. A 7-5 could be on the cards. A reading room defense will be played out again. We saw this come through in round number 9. I think in that round it was Martyr who shut down Bone early. INC, I talked about it. They suffered from so much attrition, Panda. They move so incredibly slowly when they try to attack on the top floor. So perhaps what needs to be done is a complete switcheroo. Maybe go in for that train bypass we saw attempted a few times by Visionary, or maybe just be a little bit more efficient when you go for that top-down clear. Reading can be a difficult objective to attack. There is a few conventional ways you can get it done. And there are a few that are not so conventional. Some of those might be rushing up the white stairs. Maybe that's what'll take Visionary off guard. Or maybe even trying to go for a quick plant inside of dining, rappelling in, clearing that utility. I don't know. InControl, though, with their utility-stacked roster and lineup, are probably going to attempt to go for this full-out clear again. Making sure that they get control of the White Hall should be the linchpin, because they suffered in wasting so much time around this area in the previous round. Moving into Bar was a huge warning sign, and even still in that round, they eventually fought it back to the 3 versus 3. But I'm sure you'll remember it was Panic who hid in the dark corner just to the southwest of Pillar, who managed to come up huge for his team.
Well, we'll see if they can pull it off again. Panic, he's doing his thing, clearing out those railings up on the bar, giving himself an option when he needs to pull out. He's seen a lot of top 4 presence on this defense so far, has proved himself to be an incredibly competent gunner. 13-2-8, not quite the scoreline that we used, but definitely involved, definitely doing some real damage to that drone economy as well. I think he's averaging something close to, what, 2-3 around now on the defense, so they will just continue feeding and trying to scout him out, give the attackers that opportunity to shut him down. But Yusuke on the back of the drone could translate here as he goes to the swing, sees the head, can't, yes he can! Panic goes down, Yusuke gets himself 15 on the board, and they take down such a pivotal part of this defense for Visionary. They need to find a couple more here. Oh no, this Nitro Cell from Mata could be absolutely huge. Badger's being threatened, but they're not going to walk over it at the moment. He can't pick it up, no! He's trying to shoot it off the floor, trying to get it to drop down. He's trying to get some misinformation going potentially as well, draw them over. But no, this is not the candy that InControl Nation are looking for. They have their eyes on the setting up for it, and with Mata unable to get that Nitro Cell, that could be costly. Jimmy goes down as well. Yusuke on an absolute tear in this round, and there's still so much time left to play. Badger, he gets caught out by his own Vulcan shield. Kojin, the one to find it. This is looking all but over as a contest on White Stairs.
Here comes the smoke. Already, the Nomad is ready to push it, but the M590 loses now. Nevo collects on the headshot, and it's just the pulse. The worst weapon in the game on the defense, but can he make it work? No, he can't. A flawless round from InControl Nation. They pick up their map pick of Kafe with a 7-5 scoreline.
Yusuke with the drop shot to finish it off. He dropped off bar, prone, gunned him down, and ultimately, it was the result we expected coming out of InControl Nation. We did expect them to win. They denied the points in overtime, but I honestly believe InControl Nation must be a little bit concerned going into map number 2. The fact that they were pushed as far as they were, the fact that it was 1 round away from heading to OT, is a scary prospect, especially given the standings on the scoreboard. There's a lot to be worried about, but we've got a bit of a break. We've got some analysts coming up. Stick, what have you got to take away from map number 1?
Well, it was hard fought, just as you said it. INC are going to be a little bit cautious going into this second map. They want to secure their position at the top rungs of that leaderboard, but just as you say it, we'll be giving you guys over to the analysts so they can break everything down. Please, ladies and gentlemen, welcome our beautiful analyst staff, Pond and Rigel.
Stick, I really think you are the beautiful one here. What an absolutely wonderful game, and a tale of 2 halves, honestly. We got to see one of the things that I kind of like that really jumped out to begin with was the urgency that InControl is playing with. On their defensive half, we got to see them swing a lot. They had a lot of decent setups, but they pushed gunfights more than they did their actual setups. And I think that has a lot to do with the sub that they had, and they didn't have Exile in the game. But I do think going into the second game, they are going to be having to play a little bit more patient. Round 3, I believe round 3 does go up to the second point. Hero plays on Visionary side. Visionary had relied a lot of their rounds on those individual performances and hero plays. Nash, what are your thoughts on the play? What is something that InControl is going to have to kind of clean up if they want to be a little bit more dominant in the second half, as we've seen them play during the season?
Yeah, so I think the only thing that I would have to say is potentially just a little bit of coordination, because especially in the beginning couple rounds, we saw a little bit of them just getting caught out, I would say, by these odd angles that Visionary was holding, or even though they were, cleaning up shop pretty well, then all of a sudden here we go with like Jimmy coming in with a 3K or 4K, whatever he happened to get that round. So it's just a matter of, being better with communication, coordinating your defenses, your attacks, whatever it might be, a little bit better, and you should be good to go. But it's important to note they were playing with a sub for map number 1. Exile's internet said no because of the snowstorm that's going on somewhere in the US right now. But he is coming back for map 2, which is important to note, Pon. So what do you think? Is that going to impact how InControl is playing? Potentially is going to be faster outcome?
First, I want to point out that nasty shot by Kojin, but I really think that with Exile coming in and them their sub Salvage was playing in the game, and I think Exile coming back in will do a lot for that team's cohesiveness because we got to see a lot of their attacking setups were rushed. They were kind of forcing the execute with 50 seconds left or 40 seconds left, and
Right.
you could definitely tell that they would rely more on their guns than their actual attacking setup. Without having to worry about that and having that fifth man, that 5-man cohesiveness that InControl has is one of the biggest reasons why they are as dominant as they are. A question I want to ask you is, what is something you think, as we are going to be talking about subs, we do see that Marty is going to be subbing in here for Visionary. What does Marty have to do, and what does Visionary have to do in order to take Theme Park?
Well, I think from what I saw from him, he played a little bit more of that supporter role, or the support role, I should say. My English is not great today, but he's playing a support role, so he needs to focus on just getting the job that he is assigned by the IGL done. So I don't know. I think it is Abadu is the visionary IGL. It's been a minute since I've talked about it with him, but he might say, hey, set up your flank watch, get that ready to go while we start making the push. You just need to listen and coordinate with your IGL really well and pick up some frags along the way. And honestly, I would say that Martyr has done that fairly well so far. I mean, his scoreline was pretty even in terms of the kill department, so he picked up a little bit. He was a little bit more impactful than even, I would say, Abadu and Badger potentially in that late game once we saw everything be said and done. So I think he's doing well enough. It's just going to come down to a couple other players on Visionary sort of stepping up as well and adding their own talents back in, because I've seen these guys play and I know they can do it. It's just, yeah, they have to work a little bit more as a team.
And working as a team is what you have to do, because InControl Nation, as everybody knows, is probably in SCS, I'd argue, one of the most gun skill heavy teams. They do have some very, very tight strats. I like the way that they're able to analyze the attacker or the defenders in their drone phase. I think the round that comes to mind was, I believe, round 7 when Visionary went for a full turtle strat, and they decided, okay, we're not even gonna bother to go for a third floor take. We're gonna opt to go for a full second floor take, and set up their flanks with the Nomad and execute down, set up the vertical pressure, and then take first floor control as they can. They won that round menacingly. I mean, there was no stopping them, foot on the gas pedal the entire time. I think that Visionary is going to have to be a bit more creative, but also not try and take them in once. They're going to have to try and set them up in positions that they can take them in crossfire and 2-on-1 gunfights, and play a lot more into their strategies, because when they over peak and when they try and take them to their ones, they don't beat InControl in that.
Yeah, I would definitely have to agree. I mean, we saw in the very beginning of the game, especially in like rounds 1 and 2, or excuse me, 1 and 3, Visionary was picking up those wins because they were playing confident. They were trying to adapt to what InControl was doing, but then they sort of fell into the routine of their old strategies, the same old things that they might have been doing in the past, which allowed InControl to really find their niche, which is, exploiting other teams and just absolutely sending it. Which they did fairly well, especially in their attack half right here. I mean, we saw that it was a quick turnaround. It was a quick cleanup from them. But going into map number 2, it's important to note that Visionary does really enjoy Theme Park. They are very, very proficient at Theme Park. So we'll have to see if that's going to change anything as well. And we might see a closer score line, even more so by going to overtime, which I'd be excited for. These two teams are very well suited to playing each other, I would say.
Yeah, and even though Visionary is as good as they are in Theme Park, I think that InControl Nation is one of the top teams, arguably one of the top teams in Tier 3 on Theme Park.
I would definitely say so.
Even though Visionary, it is one of the more comfortable maps, this is going to be, I don't think it's going to be a map that's going to relate in anything being kind of, I don't know if I would say that out of character plays, but a lot of teams you can see play uncomfortably. They don't necessarily know what they're doing. It's going to be two very competent teams on defense and two very competent teams on attack,
Mhm.
just going head to head. And I think that the theme park game is going to be a lot closer than this match was. I think that by about round 11, it was kind of clear once all the cylinders started firing on In Control that they were going to take it. They were going to take the map. Even though they were one round away from going to overtime, I think that the last two rounds that they had won, they won in such a way that it was dominant. It showed that they weren't going to be giving up anything. They were winning their guns, and Visionary had a sense of urgency that they had to win, and In Control went out on that. Visionary was forced to take their guns, and that is not something you want to do against a team like In Control Nation.
And especially on defense as well, that's something that you have to highlight. Like when you're playing defense, you want to have the attackers sort of take the gunfights against you. You want to be set up in those better angles and not have to play the retake. But exactly like you've been talking about, Visionary just sort of had to fall into the trap of attempting a retake. But with Theme Park, another question that I sort of want to direct to you, Pond, is we've only seen it played, I believe, 5 times in SCS. I was looking at the statistics earlier, but still a very small number. So, what do you think is going to be the side to watch out for here on Theme Park? I know typically in the past it's been sort of a toss up, but leaning more towards attackers now after that initial period where it came into competitive.
With how competent these two teams are on Theme Park, I mean, we've seen Visionary be incredibly competent, incredibly powerful on it, but also In Control just being the absolute animals that they are. I think it's going to go down a little bit more of a 50-50 split, maybe a 60-40 leaning on the side of the defense, because the
Okay.
defensive setups for both of these teams, Isuke is such a strong roamer, as well as Bone. I mean, Bone is absolutely nutty on that Jaeger. These two players themselves, if they're able to disrupt Visionary the way that they have shown to do, and the way that they have played as strong as they have on theme, that that kind of points me to being, if their roam game is successful, it'll go into the side of the defensive half for In Control. But if the roam game is shut down, I can see it going more into the side of attack.
Yeah, awesome, Pod. And I know we only have a little bit more time as well. So I want to sort of highlight the fact that now with the qualifier information being released on Twitter, so definitely check that out. There are 4 teams that will make it somewhat farther in the qualifiers based alone on, performance in the playoffs. So it's going to be very important to get into the playoffs. So do you think that these 2 teams here have secured their spots, or do you think one of them might fall away, or how is that going to work?
Sorry to all the Visionary fans out there. I don't think that their spot is secured. I think In Control Nation spot's secured. Same with Redux Rising and Lycus Empire. I think
Yeah.
that those 3 teams are solid picks, but that fourth spot is still really up in the air. I mean, with the remaining play days, we could potentially see a team push up from the bottom. I mean, I got to give it out to my emergence guys. I mean, I'd love to see them win out the rest of their games and move it up there, but Visionary is going to have to. They've got a tough schedule up. But I believe we are going to be transitioning over to our
Indeed.
casters. I want to thank you for the time we've got, and we are going to be moving into this exciting match number 2.
Bye, Pond. I'll see you in like 30 minutes.
Hello and welcome back, everyone. We are going to be getting into. I think I might be having some issues. No, okay, my microphone sorted itself, but we are going to be heading into the second map of the series. Visionary just came short there in the end, going down 7-5. You've got to hope coming into map number 2, a map they are touted to be very, very competent on, that they can push to at least get some points on the board. Stick, we're coming into it. Operator bans are such a key part. Are we going to see anything different than what we saw in the last one?
Well, maybe. That's kind of a hard question to answer as far as getting in here. I think the Wamai could stick. We'll see the Thatcher band out first, which will make things considerably more difficult here. I'm not sure whether or not we'll see the Maverick band come through as well. Maybe Visionary will choose to remove something else. Also to note, no more Sherb. The Sherbillionaire is going back on his vacation in the billion-dollar mansion, and we've got Exile to come back and play for on INC. They've got their full 5, and so that gives them just a little bit more confidence, especially coming off of a strong Kafe performance. We'll see the Maverick is banned out. INC with the last defender banned. Visionary got to take something of theirs as well, and we'll see that come through in the veto. It is Malusi. So no worries of those Banshees, which played a big role in that previous match in being able to stall things out. Nobody likes to deal with the Wubs. They're so frustrating to deal with. This last defender ban, I think you've got really 2 or 3 options. Probably the Mira, maybe the Cade, or even the Wamai. We'll have that answered. It is the Wamai. So with Mira as well as the Cade left up here on the board, I think the INC defense have got a good solid core of those operator picks in the back pocket. One of the important factors that I liked that Pond and Rigel brought up was that roam, which we might see, and INC are so powerful on the roam itself, and that could create some issues here. And in fact, I think we've got our answer. Alibi picked first by Nevo. There might be a 6 pick, but with the MX4 Storm, a set of impact nades, and a couple of the Prismas to pull some tricks, Alibi can prove to be very effective on that lurker role.
On the other side of things, though, you see something else coming in that's a little bit different. It's going to be Badger running the Kali. So when Thatcher is banned out, you bring Kali. Those Lancers largely do something the same. So hopefully could look to utilize that. Might be able to make plays off the back of it and translate that into some big priority. Definitely enable that opening of that throne wall.
Oh, yeah. And Kali is an off and on operator. I think what is important to talk about as far as the sniper lady herself is Theme Park has a lot of close quarters potential for gunfights. You're going to round a corner and immediately spot someone, and that requires a skilled operator. Usually you've got one player on your team that's confident on the Kali roll. If I was playing well, that's just not me. It's hard to use that sniper rifle. You've got to have a really quick reaction time in order to hit those shots precisely with the rifle. I suppose Badger is on that role. It plays out in a similar position to someone like a Maverick. You've got to be really well rehearsed with the gadget, with the weapon, and with the utility in order to effectively make use of it. Nevo will open up a rotate here and in fact deploy a shield to further defend this position. And so INC with a bit of an extension over here inside of maintenance. Not something that comes up all too often, but a quite creative strategy to say the least.
Yeah, they're doubling down over on the stairs side as they're looking to lock it out, trying to get some control if they can. Wouldn't be surprised if we see an early skirmish going the way of InControl just because they have the manpower there. Hatch is going to be opened up early, but you already see players in from the Kafe side of things. They're going to get in early. Look into egress. Exile is going to feed that information over to his team, but unfortunately, the angle is there, just tight in the railings of the stairs. Panic finds the opener. And that is a big kill to find. Unfortunately, coming in, Exile might not be as warmed up as you'd like, given that, he didn't play map number 1. And unfortunately, man count early is going the way of Visionary.
It's a big and very punishing loss to face now, but it's the castle. Probably the most forgiving of the operators to have died with on the opener. You don't have any important utility to keep around until the end of the round. Yusuke is still holding this position inside of storage. Overall, a very extended hold off-site from InControl. We'll see a bit of explosive action there. A frag lops off the life of Nevo. Now your alibi and your castle gone. INC facing heavy losses and Yusuke forced to make a play. He spots Jimmy Buckets. It's another one to rotate in, but the ARX does its work. And it'll take Yusuke's life. Now a 4v2 as Bone returns to the objective. With the loose style that we see employed here by the INC defense, many routes are available for the Visionary attack to move in from. Panic will toss another frag grenade. It won't take the life of any INC defenders as we saw previously, but instead remove the potential for that shielded Dragon 90 position. Badger on the long angle. This is where the Kali reigns supreme, and Bone is tempting his luck behind the throne itself. We'll see a rotate come through. Panic is caught off guard. Bone with the first. Can he collect for a second? It's tough to fight in that long-range gunfight. Martyr gets a Bone now, so just left up to Kojin. the support, the tank for this team. He gets the first now, and a Badger, the rotate from inside. It's a Nitro Cell. Abadu is gone. Now Kojin, a 1v1. Martyr rotates around. He covers split to pick up the diffuser. A pre-fire reveals his position. Now backing on off. He's got the Nomad air jab in hand. Kojin commits to it. A 1v3 clutch from the Bandit. What a way to kick off this first round. INC take the round victory.
I mean, Kojin has really been one of these standout players in those dire moments. He hasn't always clutch up, but contesting long angles with the likes of the SMG11 on Kafe, he really has found some huge impact in the round. And speaking of impact, this is not a bomb site that teams traditionally opt into. Lab Storage coming in for round number 2 here of Theme Park. And you've got a question. Is this InControl Nation coming in with a strategy prepped and ready to take a map like this? Or are they just relying heavily on their frag power, going in for those gunfights saying, look, this isn't the greatest of bomb site, but we know we can play around it in frag heavy. Try and deny the impact of a Kali. This is going to be a potentially chaotic round.
Lab is not totally foreign territory for INC in their match versus first attempt. They played it twice, I believe, and in that game, also to note, they secured a flawless first half, which is quite the statement on the map. I don't even think Visionary have been able to achieve that in any of their matches yet, but while it signals the performance of INC and their strengths as a team, it also points to what some would call a fallibility of Theme Park in being very defensive. I cannot say defender-sided. It does not play well for the attackers because as a defender, what you could do is read so well into the attack and their plans. There isn't a whole lot of variety in what you can bring as far as an execute on the map, and it tends to play pretty similar, pretty samey, as I mentioned during the pre-game phase in all of the rounds. And so far from INC, they have brought some variety in their defenses, but Visionary have a tall task ahead of them if they want to claim this lab attack. A rotate over to the Kafe balcony. This will be the original direction of the push as Panic opens up this Kafe door. Looks for the Valkyrie camera, and in fact, he'll spot it. So one bit of that info utility is now gone, and Visionary managed to take somewhat of an early advantage. But the opening pick, also something important to look at. We saw Panic collect for 2 in the previous round. He got, I think, both Exile as well, further taking out I think it was Nevo who fell, so you've got 2 potential opening frags there. Maybe he's gonna strike twice, repeat history. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Theme Park and how it's set up. It's so horizontally spread, and that seems to be the play on the first floor here for InControl. They've spread themselves all the way over to the throne. They're looking to control a lot of those angles, whereas, you know, it doesn't seem that is anything that Visionary are worried about. They're going to go for upstairs control. Verticality is the name of the game here in the situation. Panic, he's just going to be opening up the floor willy-nilly, and he's going to be he's going to be punished for his trouble. There's no panic whatsoever when you're dead. It's a Nitro Cell to come out from Navozo, punishes him quite heavily. Jimmy gets the refrag onto Yusuke though, so it's not the worst situation as Bone finds Badger. I am the curse of Rainbow 63 Esports. I say something and then it goes the other way.
More of this vertical play being opened up by Visionary in their attempt to ascertain dominance of the drug objectives. Martyr will move in, the fresh face on this lineup. It's a prone angle around the back of the throne. Bone is going to hold it passively, though. He won't open himself up for anything too quickly now, but Martyr taps the head, and Bone will fall now at 3v3. INC's advantage is flailing. And we'll see Abadu move in deeper within the objective. Navozo will fall, so the advantage has flip-flopped, and even more so now as Jamie Buckets gets exile. It's just Kojin to collect for a second 1v3 clutch. Can he make it work? Not at all. Flashbanged out. It's full white inside of the drug storage room. Abadu will successfully complete the plant in a moment's time, and now it goes down, and Kojin keeps getting bullied. Flashbang after flashbang. His position is well understood. It's another flashbang. All 3 attackers doubling up. Martyr with the long and tall angle as Kojin falls, the final defender remaining. And Visionary fight back with a success on this quaternary bomb site.
Yeah, it was an interesting attempt there. We saw coming out of InControl. They lose it though, but now they've got the option to go to either, initiation, office, or bunk daycare. And it's going to be initiation. Off the back of this, they can then look to rotate back to something a little bit more familiar. But this is a bomb site that has a mottled history, so to speak. It can go either way very, very heavily. You can lock teams out of initiation, make it that much harder to go for the plant. Office as well can be a very, very hard bomb site to push into if the tools are there. And given the tools that are on the board for Visionary, they're going to make it incredibly hard for InControl Nation to keep control of the bomb site. You got Badger providing that information on terms of the gadgetry. You've got the air jabs denying the rotation on a heavily horizontal map like Theme Park. And then you're going to have to worry about the likes of Panic playing from below with those frag grenades. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do see some sort of deep roam coming out here from InControl Nation. You want someone who's heavy off the site, who can pinch in from behind and look to affect things. Yusuke and Navozo will be playing on site. Understandably, the two SAS operators with those M590s can do a lot of work in and around that play area, but you're also seeing that extended bunk hold as well. This is what the majority of teams are playing at the moment.
One important and kind of interesting thing to look at, it's actually the lab bomb site which has the highest defender win rate through all of the objectives just within SCS Season 4. And, maybe that's a bit of a cop-out. It's only been played the 5 times, but the rest of the bomb sites haven't seen too much play themselves. Only 31 rounds all throughout Theme Park inside of weeks 1 through 7. An early mount up here from Visionary as they approach the cash balcony. Abadu above. He's going to play it safe there. Doesn't want anybody to go aggressive, maybe run out and find themselves a freebie. Panic will drone himself further and deeper down the Dragon hallway. Badger works in, the duo of those two, and they will clear out below. Maybe we'll see Panic search for a frag grenade kill. He spots some debris on the floor there, and the frag will come into the hand. Cooking it and tossing it up. It detonates, but without getting much. Below the chairs there inside the meeting room, INC escape unscathed, and no utility being taken with it either now. Badger still holds off the flank. He wants to make sure that nobody on INC tries to retake and undo this map control we've seen them take, and they've got the perfect flank drones in position to stop this from happening. Mute Jammer's taken out below with the electronics detector as Visionary work further to establish their dominance in this assault.
All those tools that can freely be taken, enabling the hard breaches, is just going to make that march into the bomb site that much easier. It's going to be on InControl Nation to buckle down, weather the storm. You see Bone just tucked in behind the vault door. Could make some real plays off the back of it. It's not an angle that everyone checks, especially if you go for that late round execute. Cogent is just dancing in between initiation and waiting as the push is going to be coming from yellow stairs, it seems. Goomine goes off. Panic might have given away his position there. I think Bone has heard it, so he is ready. Throwing towards the vending machines down the yellow hall, but not going to be able to connect off the back of it. And drone economy is, again, it's looking a bit rough here for the side of Visionary. They're not going to have as many tools to work off. And with 55 seconds left, not a single point of damage has been done. No real coming to play yet.
You have to get this opening frag eventually now because of the massive stall out that we see ongoing. INC, I'm not sure if this is a strategy or a mistake in the wall into cash from office. It's Badger who eventually and now finally gets the opening pick, but Jimmy Buckets falls swiftly in response. Kojin with the refrag. You've got the rest of the Visionary attack moving in closely now to the objective with Badger coming up for the support. They've yet to clear this position inside of bunks, though, which could provide a significant thorn in their side, really. Kojin on a martyr now, but Badger and Abadu with many frags of their own, and it's just this bunks player left. Abadu with another plant for his name. Oh no, the position is revealed. Exile picking away at the gun barrel of the G8A1, and now they're well understanding of this position. It's pre-fires back and forth, both of the LMGs raining bullets through initiation. More and more pre-fires as Exile tries his hardest to get on the board. A 1v3 would be what is necessary. He'll rotate deeper now. Visionary keep playing this game of lie in wait rather than try and peek. The time grows even closer now, and Even if Exile had chosen to run over and try to disable the diffuser, it has already elapsed the 8-second counter, and Visionary take round 3.
Yeah, this is speaking, I think, more towards the fact that this is Visionary's pick. They understand the map very, very well. They have prepped themselves as best as they possibly can coming into this. So 2 rounds in a row now. They are looking good going into the half. If they can get anything further, really, it's just icing on top of the cake here. Throne Armory comes out once again. Bone bringing the Ella, so they're going for the same setup, the same strategy, which really did work quite well for them the last time round. It was on the Trojan going massive with that huge clutch, but I mean, hopefully, InControl Nation don't back themselves into that corner once again. They can look to play a more forward-heavy style, play off their own aggression and find the gunfights. Visionary, they're in a great spot right now. If they pick up another round, that's a 3-3 half. Hell, if they pick up 2 more, that's a 4-2 half worst case scenario. And from there, they can look to close it out and going in to the second half of this map and resulted in a tie. But you look at the spread. InControl Nation going for a very aggressive spread on this first floor. They're looking to contest as much as they possibly can. And it's one of those strategies where it works very, very well. Gunfights, but if you lose them, you can find yourself spread a little bit too thin, and that defense becomes infinitely harder.
Fairly shaky so far through these first 3 defenses, now into the 4th. The only one that INC have yet secured was off the back of that impressive 1v3 clutch from Kojin. And even leading up to that, it looked like a fairly solid Visionary round. They managed to get the opener for 2, shutting down early the INC extension. And because of that, it allowed them so much pressure because of the loose nature of this InControl defense. We'll see them attempt it again, confident that they can win, but knowing in the back of their minds that the only reason why they stand with a round victory is because their teammate, the tank of Kojin, was able to get those frags to get the clutch. Panic will drum things out quickly. Visionary wasting no time in their clear. They're going to make sure that nobody is lurking on the west side of the building. The drones flutter through. Nobody in break room. Bunks is clear, and daycare left absent. Abadu moves through with the drone. Badger comes in. The vertical play likely to be the next step here. You've got the sledge with this hammer, but he's inside Kafe, curiously enough. Bone and Kojin, the duo of the 2, waiting at the top of the dragon stairs for this impending attack. Panic, though, I don't think they're really going to choose to try and apprehend that, instead focusing more on the bomb site push and droning out everything that leads up to it.
Very interesting setup here. I think they understand just how much vertical pressure has been applied previously by Visionary, so there isn't as much first floor presence in and around the bomb site. You got a couple of players over towards the top dragon. They're very, very spread as Exile just swings aggressively onto Panic. That is the sledge gone. It's all the utility now off the board, and he's looking for more. He's in locker. He knows there's someone outside. Can he swing and find it? He's looking, but no. Unfortunately, Marta just sticks it out in the end and brings that man count back even. But in terms of utility now gone from both teams, I think Exile comes out on top.
Well, it won't matter now as Bone is gone as well. It's Visionary finding the 4v3 advantage. The barrel's wall detonates as Visionary's hard breach works to soften up what remains from the InControl hold. Yusuke is moving back and forth, shifting his positions. A Nitro Cell is launched by Kojin, but it doesn't catch anyone. Navozo looks like he wants to try and go for a bit of a flank and perhaps stop the Dragon Wall from being open. Yusuke doesn't have much of a say in the matter. We'll see the Habana. Does she overexpose herself? In fact, she does. Martyr taken so low and almost the pre-fire. The same can be said for Kojin. The MP7, the bullets rattle off, but it's the IQ who goes aggressive. Finally, Yusuke gets on the board in the round, and Badger falls as Martyr as well, already taken low. The prone angle spotted, though, and Kojin is punished for his transgressions. Leaping in, Jimmy Buckets quickly shut down. It's a frag, 1-for-1, and Abadu between these last 2 defenders. No time to get this plant down. He'll have to find the frags, but he can't get those last 2, and InControl Nation win another armory defense.
Yeah, Yusuke, he was one of the loudest players in the server map, going absolutely huge in terms of the start piping up in this one. And finally, He gets himself in there loud and proud in round number 4. Gets some big frags on the board to deny that throne armory taken. It seems that we might not see bunk daycare at all. Obviously, it's a bomb site that has its own share of issues currently at the moment. Although, you would imagine at this level, no one would be looking to exploit those. Lab storage, they're going to be going for it once again. We'll see. Hopefully this time Kojin isn't left in a 1v3 situation with all those flash grenades. I think he spent the majority of that time while the diffuser was ticking down with a white screen. Hopefully he doesn't have to battle into that again. At the moment, Marta, really, honestly, very impressive debut performance here with Visionary.
Bomb located by attackers.
Certainly making his pickup worth their while, and even not on the most fragger-heavy rolls. He's been playing kind of a flex support so far from what we've seen, and his consistency has shined on the flank watch of the Nomad, sure to be felt again here from InControl if he can get into a tough enough position. It looked for a minute like INC had fooled me, and we finally went up to the top floor, but no, it's Strong Lab again. This defense has quite a few kinks that need to be worked out. InControl, I think in this round, got the opening frag onto Panic, but that's not something you can count on. And it's a big storyline to watch for. The dilemma and the dynamic between Panic and Yusuke, both players getting so many frags on Kafe, but so far quiet, as we've seen a much more consistent game across the board. There's nobody really standing out amongst the frags. I suppose you could note Martyr and Kojin, respectively, for each of their teams. See Nevo, he will prone below the window, escaping the eyes of Visionary as he rotates safely to his corner inside of storage. He'll be the first line of defense should Visionary attempt to go for a rush and perhaps hop in the window to give us a bit of action.
Well, at the moment, again, it's that aggressive forward position we see out of Visionary. Panic leading the charge is going to be the first one and clearing out upper arcade as he looks to push down onto that first floor. Marta finds the kill onto Bone, who went for that run-out attempt, heavily punished there. Not going to find much of anything. Yusuke might even look for an attempt of his own. He jumps out. He's looking for it long. Yes. Is as they take down Marta, and there's a lot of utility now off the board. Flash grenades, air jabs having been stolen away from this Visionary roster means that roam game is that much more free for InControl. And we know if Yusuke can get that room, he can do some real work, and without the fear of air jabs, he's going to be having a grand old time.
Yeah, that's certainly allowing for a little bit more flexibility here. Oh, look at this! Jimmy Buckets and Yusuke! So close to hitting the headshot, and he gets it! Yusuke eliminated. Jimmy Buckets threads the needle for the one-tap headshot, and now the Jaeger eliminated Visionary take their advantage. It's more and more spam shots to come through from Jimmy Buckets, taking his opportunity to let the gun roar as Exile waits Kojin, though, on the Panic. Now the vertical play goes his way, and the sledge is dead and gone. Badger below spots out one player. He can't look down far enough in order to get the proper angle. He'll almost make it done, but Kojin escapes, now fleeing the site. He doesn't get to hide for long, though, as Jimmy Buckets, the deputy on patrol, finds him out. It's Badger the next to go down. Exile not in the best position to support his teammates, with one from Visionary holding off the flank. Jimmy Buckets, another kill for him. Navozo in this position we saw previously. He better be hoping there's no more flashbangs. A rotate through the front bathroom, spots the ping and the headshot. The spray control gets that frag. Badger lies still on the floor. It's a plant attempted. Does Abadu know this? He gets it, the final kill. Visionary take round 5.
Abadu, the clutch king, stepping up when he needed to. Unfortunately, well, actually, fortunately for him, it was only 1v1. He didn't have to go the full distance of a 1v3, but Kojin, unfortunately, not able to confirm onto the second. An upper arcade. Navozo looked very, very solid, just stabbed around that doorway, took the head off of Jimmy Buckets, who, despite the ratings not being the most solid for him, has really come into his own here in this series this week. He's sitting second on the leaderboard, tied with Kojin in this map, was very, very high up there in the last map, playing a very, very solid entry role here for Visionary. So I think he's going to be feeling himself well and truly coming into this. Map number 2, round number 6, so the final round of the half. And it's looking like it might be Visionary taking that 4-2 split. They're doing incredibly well. They are just absolutely dismantling InControl Nation here, and it's hard to pin it down to one thing or another. Is it the fact that Visionary have really done their homework? They've prepped everything they possibly could coming into this, or is InControl Nation underestimating their opponents a little bit here? It's feeling like potentially a combination of both. Visionary, they have just been winning their gunfights time and time again. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough for them to secure Kafe, but it might just be enough for them to secure Theme Park here. Final round of the half, they need to go big, get themselves that 4-2 split, because from there, once they head onto that attacking side, the defending side, they can look to push it over the edge.
Here's something a bit out of the blue. We'll have this office initiation defense. Came through in round number 3, a fairly decisive win for Visionary. No daycare played in this first split. It seems INC don't really favor the bomb site too much. And I want to go back quickly so I can look. I believe they did end up playing it when they faced off against First Attempt. No, actually, they didn't play daycare at all whatsoever. They played it, it was played against them when they were on the attack, but none at all. Nothing to show for this bomb site, and I guess they just simply don't like it. Initiation in Office has a pretty pitiful win rate so far across the league, but INC, obviously, with their flawless half on their defenses and the only other theme park they've played, have yet to lose it.
Yeah, I wonder, potentially it could be a gentleman's agreement. No one's going to bunk daycare, given that there is currently a pretty significant bug in play with that bomb site at the moment, but who knows, we might see it coming off the defense of Visionary. It might just be that InControl don't like the site as a whole, but with this initiation office defense, again, time really well and truly in favor of Visionary as they gear themselves up for that push. You can see the players in position, ready to contest. Badger's already on arcade balcony. He's looking to swing in, try and flush out the player that is sitting and break, but Jimmy Buckets is in a bit of trouble, was caught on the drone. No! He wins the opener onto Exile. Machine gun versus machine gun. Exile has not been able to contest a couple of times now in that situation. The drone hole, in fact, was the place Jimmy was being punished from. And with a minute 15 left on the clock, low health bars all over the board.
Here we go, back and forth. Frags, Badger on the Nevo, but Yusuke holding back the tide and keeping this attack for the time at bay. Kojin. No more goo mines for him. They're already all deployed. Panic sitting at 50, and Jimmy Buckets just got to try and play this safe. We know he can make his impact, but at 25 health, I don't know about you, Blue Panda, but that's kind of a risky position for him.
I don't know, in a game like Rainbow Six, all it takes is a headshot to turn the tide. I've seen people clutch up on less. And with 30 seconds left, it is going to be a hard push that needs to come out here from Visionary. They need to go for the execute. Badger finds the head of Yusuke, pushes that man advantage even further, securing himself a triple smoke. Grenade is in. Bone is playing in it. Can he find anything? Kojin with the pistol. On to Panic, brings that man count just a little bit closer here. Far more doable as he confirms onto a second. That 25 health unfortunately wasn't, especially given that it was the head cleanly taken off. Plant goes down in initiation. Bone, can he swing? No, unfortunately, just the pixel angle being held by Abadu means they get it. Kojin with the big triple. He's looking for more. One more, and he can go for that defuse. 30 seconds left. He sees him. Abadu just gets himself into control. He can rotate out from there. He's going to play the angle. Can Kojin clutch it out here? Time is not on his side. He's sticking on the diffuser. Abadu, he's going to be pushing it. He's swinging back out. Kojin, can he find the frag? Abadu's holding the doorway. He's got to fight. Can he do it? No! Abadu, the clutch king for Visionary, comes in big again.
So close to the clutch there, and it almost looked like he was gonna make the miracle happen and get that ninja defuse, but all for naught. Visionary win it out, and the defenses did not play out in the favor of INC and perhaps for what they had in mind. Now we'll see them pick up the attack. Can they answer the game and show us something new? That's the question we'll be seeking to answer. If they want to keep this competitive, they've got to take one of these next 2 rounds, shift the tide, and regain that momentum to move it more closer to their favor. But for now, it looks like Visionary have a commanding lead and a good understanding of what it takes to be successful on a map like Theme Park. And in these next few rounds, I'm not too certain if I see that changing.
Yeah, they definitely have InControl Nation's number at the moment as we see the last moment. 6 pick out onto a Valkyrie. It's an operator that does have a huge amount of impact on a map like Theme Park. Getting yourself that external information is so key. We've seen a run out or two already. One successful, one not so much, as it was Yusuke avenging his fallen teammate. But this is an interesting situation. A very attacker-sided half on Theme Park. Going into the next one, can Visionary ride that momentum? Obviously, defense the preferred side on this map. They can look to coast it over the edge. They need 3 rounds to shut it out and result the series in a draw. But in saying that, it is InControl Nation. You look at the score on the board. Kojin is going absolutely huge. Yusuke, he's still coming into his own on this map. Now that he's on the Ash, this is an operator that he well and truly shines on. This could be an absolute stomp of a half where, you know, InControl Nation rely on their heavy fragging capabilities and take it back to even.
Seems like this theme park has nothing in it for Exile so far, only a single frag for him. You mentioned the warm-up game. Hopefully that's over by now as we enter the second split, and Exile starts to come into his element with his duo on the lineup. And now, 4v2, that disadvantage becomes a little bit more evident. The opening frag in this round could not be more important to shift the tides. Panic on an early roam, he flanks through inside of Gong and maintenance now as he looks to find any unsuspecting InControl attackers. The Jaeger is spotted, and Z-Ping comes out, and the Jaeger will turn his back. He surely spotted that drone, looking for it inside of Gong, but it still continues to elude him, and INC will now begin to close in. The pincer likely soon to follow, but perhaps it won't, as INC stands stock still. It's Yusuke to drop down first in the fight. Now they're sure that they know where he is. The Jaeger hiding deep back inside of Tellers, an area we see very infrequently. It's a flashbang. He doesn't get spotted out by it, but somehow Yusuke hits that shot. The Ash for the headshot. It's Exile down, though, 1 and 6. Kojin as well, a double for Jimmy Bucket, swinging the corner and looking to find a third. Badger, though, picks off Yusuke, and we'll see a complete forfeit of this area. Never mind that. Nevo moves inside of control room. The Goyo is waiting. He somehow gets that Nitro. A wonderful flick shot. It doesn't matter for much as Badger collects the double kill. Close up in the doorway. It's Jimmy Buckets. Visionary take round 6 and race forward a 5v2 advantage.
Jimmy Buckets has gone above and beyond in this series. What, he had a 0.7 rating coming into this week. That is going to change. That is going to change very, very heavily. Man has just been putting up numbers. This is beyond what we've seen from him so far. He's well and truly stepping into his own. And if this is the team that Visionary is going to start, you know, this is the fleshed out Visionary roster that we've been waiting for to come into this tournament. This is a scary prospect. You know, there's a couple of teams now currently vying for that top 6 position. The likes of Visionary, the likes of Emergence, who really, they've just been improving week on week on week. And now that Visionary, they seem to have flushed out this roster. They've got what they want on the board. They're going to be starting that campaign to push into the top 6, make their spot in playoffs, and look to try and win the whole tournament overall. This is phenomenal so far. They're looking to tie this up and get themselves some real points on the board.
Certainly possible here in Visionary. This is that underdog team that I talked about. They've shown themselves to be consistent, and they've had strong games across a variety of opponents. And to see Jimmy Buckets come in, that was the dynamic that I talked about. With him and Martyr, the new player coming onto this team, their performance was imperative to the further successes of Visionary. And so far, between Jimmy and between Martyr, they are the top performers for their team, with Badger in the mix, and Visionary are looking hot to take this next round and push things further to overtime, or rather match point even. INC have a long road ahead of them if overtime is the dream, and should Visionary secure this next round, the goal is even more difficult and perilous. INC missing their signature entries and their opening kills that led them to have so much success. We'll see Panic curiously preps the bathroom window, perhaps for a late flank to jump down into lockers. I'm not sure if we have that position already prepped with the lockers door open. Visionary maybe attempting a run out there. We don't have a Valkyrie on their composition. A drone moves in, it's quickly captured, but one of the INC attackers will break that. Panic trying to get this kill. He'll look to go aggressive. Exile on the hatch, though. So if they realize he's here, the rotate will be locked off, and there's the drone to confirm the intel.
Nitro Cell deep on a cash balcony. Navozo. Panic with a long arm toss for a very, very short operator. Rotates himself into office showers as well. He's going to look to try and transfer it into even more damage. We talked about how threatening Panic can be when he's given the room to roam. He's also one of the players who, his drone economy for well, at least the defense anyways, drone denial play is just insane in terms of how much advantage he can deny from the attackers. He's just playing around here. Oh, he's going to do a bit of a rotate. Look, Red Hawk gets caught on the heels. Bone finds that kill and brings it back to an even man count. But Navozo, that's so much utility off the board. The flashes, the air jabs that weren't put down. From there, they can look to translate. The Nitro Cell was already used by Panic, so not the biggest of losses.
There's no Nitros left even now, as Martyr and Badger have seemingly already expended them. So that won't be a possibility here to launch over the maintenance wall and perhaps collect for 3 big kills. Badger has the battery in pocket. He'll set it down on the wall. It doesn't get any utility. It looks like it doesn't. They still have yet to deploy anything on the wall, with Kojin remaining in control for 3x Kairos. A frag grenade is launched over, though Badger somehow survives. It's cooked again and tossed, but the misdirection, it goes the wrong way. We'll see Yusuke get very aggressive contesting in this battle with the player deeper behind the throne as Jimmy Buckets comes through for his flank. Exile watching the top dragon stairs, but Badger now gets Kojin, which should shift the direction of focus. The freebie is spotted. It's collected, nearly walking into the tempting lasers of the Claymore. Bone down as well. It's just Yusuke in a 4v1. 11 seconds remaining as the diffuser far away. Visionary take this round ostensibly. Maybe a bit of damage done or a freebie in the pocket of the Ash, but this round is dead and gone. The match point goes to VSN.
That is a huge showing. Jimmy Buckets on what I like to call the Shack Rome, an Oceanic player who absolutely excels pushing in from control, getting these deep flanks on a map like Theme Park. And they did it incredibly well on their run towards relegations, CN, but unfortunately they didn't quite make it. But a player that can pull off something like that, rotating all the way to top dragon, catch the attackers while they're prepping to go for that push into the bomb site, it can be absolutely crippling. And that's what we saw from Jimmy. Cut down one, absolutely denied any sort of entrance into the bomb site, and they now move to close out this series. If they can get a 7-2 here against InControl Nation, that is the equivalent of making a god bleed. InControl Nation, by all rights, by everything on paper, should have been able to shut out this series cleanly in regulation time. But no, Visionary with their new update roster, Marta coming into the fold, Jimmy Buckets going absolutely nuclear in his performance this week, are looking to close it out and make the series a tie and prove Chief right.
Well, for once, Chief will predict a tie that doesn't result in one team playing a 4v5. It seems that's been the consistent storyline. I think he mentioned it on Twitter as well as in our Discord. But yeah, here is the goal. INC, their attacks have not been successful, especially that last one, a pitiful, disappointing loss. INC suffered very early on that opening death. He just cannot shut down the big names here on Visionary, who have been playing a very consistent and coordinated game of Siege. And this is not the performance I think many of us expected from INC, who so far have been just... they've been INC. They've been so incredible, and I mean, they've won versus a lot of tough opponents in the past, so why wouldn't it be confident for them to take this one too, especially for them after beating teams like 303 and Pride, as well as Phantom Legion, or rather Renaissance. It's just, you've got to get to a point where INC, maybe they just haven't been tested enough. They haven't faced the top names in this team, like Lycos or Redux Rising, and Visionary have faced some of those same tests and shown themselves to be a capable roster. And if given those same opportunities versus some of the teams INC face, maybe Visionary will make their stake for the playoffs title and push themselves further in the standings. A win in a few rounds versus INC would certainly be the way to get that going.
Well, as we head to this, well, the second, well, sorry, to the end of the first minute, I don't know where I was going with that. I mean, this is a much more reserved play coming out of InControl Nation. Usually they're right in there ready to aggress with plenty of time on the clock, but they're taking their time a little bit more here. By this, they would usually be pressuring close to the bomb site, but you see them all stacked up top Dragon Stairs. This could be quite heavily punished if someone did go for an aggressive flank, find that opening frag, but Jimmy Bucket's ready and willing, saying, come on, come push me, try and take this gunfight. The M590, we've seen him do big work with it previously, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if he can do more. Unfortunately for him, there is a drone hole there, so he will be tagged up in the ankle, have to pull off the angle. But that's an avenue they now can start to push on towards the bomb site. Walls are open, a little long. This, again, is something that could be heavily punished. Cogent, he gets tagged, will drop to the floor, but it's Jimmy to go down early. Exile, he's going to get himself a key frag in this round. Visionary need to hold on because InControl Nation do not want to lose out this series. They want to go to overtime. They want to push for a series win.
Tough road set out ahead of them, but gunning down Jimmy Buckets is the way to start this off, but losing out for Exile and Yusuke doesn't help you get there either. Kojin falls as well. It's aggressive for Panic. He's finally punished. We'll see this served into a 2v2. Bone, wonderfully done on the Badger, and it's just Martyr, the new player, lying prone on the floor. It seemed to be expected by Bone. INC with round number 9. What a strong performance from them, and you can't discount Bone. He gets everything done and pushes his team through to keep them in the fight.
Yeah, tooth and nail. It's going to be a hard prospect removing InControl Nation from this map just because we see this Visionary roster sitting on map point here does not mean that they are guaranteed the win. 3 rounds to go till we hit overtime. InControl Nation will be contesting every single opportunity that they get. Bunk Daycare coming back into play once again, and the usual suspects making their way in. No surprise we see Boyo. It's traditionally used for that upper arcade hold. Jaeger there. We see the double SAS combo as well. So a combination of stall, information denial, and information gathering with the help of that Valkyrie is going to give a lot of room for Visionary to work with. We're probably going to see that Jaeger down on a deep roam once the utility goes down. And Badger, we've seen the work that these players can do. Badger's 9, 3, and 5 right now. 7, 1, and 8. The numbers are just there for Visionary.
That's the way to put it. They've got the frags that have sailed them to victory so far, and the way that they're playing is very supportive of that. INC with the team, I mean, we looked at their standings and their performance, their ratings and statistics before this game. We talked about it. INC across the board are very consistent, and they've played like that, which has led them to a lot of early success. But I think there's 2 things absent. One is the opening kills, which pretty much defined Kafe. And also, there's no refrag game. Been very quiet on the field of trades so far in InControl Nation. Aside from that last round, which was pretty much Trade City, and it was Bone finally starting to heat up, but he's still not even going positive yet. And if you don't have Exile performing, and Nevo isn't having his best game either, it's really just between Kojin, Bone, and Yusuke to start heating up versus Visionary, a team that everyone had slotted to beat.
Yeah, I mean, considering the matchup, considering the place on the standings, this is probably the hardest InControl have been, put under the hilt at the moment. No expectations that they were going to find themselves here. We knew it was going to be a heavily contested match because, Visionary, they love themselves in Theme Park. There's a reason that they picked it. That no chance that we thought that InControl Nation would find themselves down 3 rounds. Nitro Cell tossed deep on the Kafe balcony again. The man just has the perfect arm. Neve 3, 1, and 8. And more of these rounds are resulting in a huge amount of utility burn for absolutely no return. Air jabs, flashbangs gone once again. Nevo cannot catch a break.
Poor Nevo. Twice now with that same player launching a nitro. It's a gas canister tossed over here. Bone's got to get off the drone. He's taken way too many breaths of that gas. Panic in a tough spot. The head is almost spotted for Exile, who fails to thread the needle. Already 2 frags gone, and a gas canister will be tossed and lower the amount of time. This is going to help them stall out the INC attackers, but Bone is looking to attempt to relieve that as he moves the territory back into a 4v4. The kill on the Badger. Consistent in his performance. It's a drop down for Jimmy Buckets, who gets very aggressive with little reward, and Yusuke now pushes this even further. Almost no panic, a mixed opportunity. Abadu with the shotgun downs the confirm, and now Bone is gone. It's a 2v3, and Yusuke with little health, a jump over. Where's this player, though? It seems like they don't know. He's on the main steps. Yusuke, the last kill on a martyr. INC win round 10. That's 2 in a row.
Call for rehost as well. We're just gonna get confirmation on that, but this is the start of a comeback, and I think Visionary are very aware of it right now. There's 2 rounds that separate, you know, the victory from overtime, and InControl Nation has been a team that proves themselves quite competent when it comes to overtime. There's a lot of things going very, very right. One of them being panic on the side of Visionary. He's just able to, if he gets 1 frag, he's guaranteed to get another, all 9 times out of 10. And even then, he's probably going to get another one on top of that. So they need to find some way to shut him down. He's been on point with these nitro cells. He's been on point with the positioning. InControl Nation, the majority of what has played out in those last 2 rounds has been Bone in the right place at the right time, uncontested in the gunfights.
INC have got to get this under control. They need some kind of like a net to stop these frag grenades, because it's every single time we're seeing a nitro cell or something fly out and completely decimate one of the INC attackers. We'll go back. Round number 4, you can take a quick look at the events that have happened before we saw the side switch go down, and Visionary still looked kind of shaky in this stage. It wasn't so clear that they were going to have a dominant performance on the map, but also INC had really failed to get their motor running. And we talked on Kafe, I think it was the analyst who had mentioned, and maybe you as well, that INC was back and forth through the first half of Kafe, and then towards the latter half of that map, it started to come more and more clear that INC had begun to work on all cylinders, and that their performance had become much more consistent, and that was what we were going to expect. A similar scenario seems to be underway for Theme Park, with INC getting these 2 back-to-back rounds, but that doesn't change the fact that Visionary are also already within, range of getting this closeout and making it happen, just simply because of the fact that they've already secured the match point. That leaves really no room for INC to breathe, and also it guarantees that, at least if Visionary lose and INC mount this massive comeback, taking, the next 4 rounds in a row, there would still be that 1 point in the bank waiting for them. And the same is also somewhat true for INC, who, if they win, even if they already can get this massive comeback, they still aren't going to get the full prize, the full 3 points, because this was not a decisive game. It was very back and forth, and Visionary performed excellently on their attacks.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing working against InControl at the moment is, you had Sherbet in the last match, you've now brought in Exile, so there is a transition period. No 2 players are going to fulfill the same role perfectly, so there is going to be that transition of a couple of rounds where you get used to having this newer face in the roster, a newer face substitute in the roster. So it's gelling in the communication side of things, gelling in the the communication, everything. Exile has suffered just as much, I think, as Sherb did in map number 1. I think if Sherb had come into map number 2, it might have been a different story. Not a hugely different story, but at least he would have been warmed up playing team. I have to say though, this map has been a hell of a map for Nitro Cells. There have been some phenomenal utility play coming out of both sides on the defense. I mean, Kojin in round number 1 with that huge clutch up just from downtown was able to put down some big impact in that 1v3 clutch. We've seen Panic a couple of rounds in a row now just going huge with that Nitro. So it's going to be interesting to see just how that plays out in the rest of the series. Theme Park is an interesting map in that, you know, having 2 floors, it's very, very similar to Coastline in that there's not that potential for a deep roam like you'd get on a Kafe or a Villa. So you've got to be more creative in terms of your horizontal. He went for the drop down into yellow stairs, almost found the kill on the. Got him incredibly low, but was taken out in the end. And we've seen just how bold InControl Nation have been. You see there, Yusuke, he got the refrag on Tamada with that run out. We didn't see too many more. I wouldn't be surprised though if we see Visionary bring out maybe 1 or 2. It would probably be Panic that does it as well. But at this point, 2 rounds. 2 rounds is all that is needed by InControl Nation to push us to overtime. And given how the last 2 rounds have played out, the momentum that Bone alone has been able to generate, I can see them doing it. I can see them pushing it over the edge here. And Visionary, they're going to need to bring out something very different to stop that from happening.
So should InControl Nation mount this comeback and take the next 2 rounds, what do you think the tale will be as we get into overtime? Do you think that INC have enough gas left in the tank in order to secure a defense? Because their performance on their defenses was not too hot.
I think it's largely down to the mental game. In all honesty, I think if InControl Nation can push it to overtime, you're hitting breaking point there for Visionary. They've worked so hard up until this point. They've gotten themselves map point on the board on the defensive half of Theme Park, only to be denied, only to be taken to overtime. And I think if they are pushed there, it's going to be very, very hard for them to close it out in OT.
Certainly so. Armory again here, and this is a bit of a worry if you're coming at this from the perspective of InControl Nation. In round number 8, we did see this go the way of VSN, and it was that round that featured the awesome Nitro Cell launched by Panic from inside of Cash and out onto the balcony. I don't know what INC have got to do in order to stop that from happening, but surely something. We'll see Avenue, he runs into lockers, and you can tell now and Visionary are prepared to have that rotate available. In a previous round back in the past, we saw that one of the players would go upstairs inside of the second floor's bathroom, and they themselves would prep the window in the bathroom so that once you start to give up that control, you can go ahead and jump out. It doesn't seem like Visionary have got it done just yet. Perhaps that's what Panic is currently on the way to do, and we'll see him probably set up this Mozzie Pest as well. There we go. So now it's prepped, the rotation is there, and it's a place like this, I think, that largely have secured Visionary a lot of an advantage over INC, who frankly on Theme Park looks somewhat unprepared.
Yeah, it has been the theme so far for InControl Nation on the large portion of this map, but you look at the setup now for Visionary defense. Jimmy has now joined up with Panic here for this hold on top Dragon Stairs. We saw that Nitro Cell come in like you were just talking about, but now that he has backup, he can't get pinched the way he did last time around with that double swing. He's looking for the pixel angle. Can he find it? Drones coming in. I swear, Panic must have killed more drones than anyone else. Now, Nitro Cell is still there. He's waiting for confirmation, waiting for the sound cues that he needs to go for the toss. But little does he know, it's just so close. Will he go for it now? Just playing around the doorway, playing chicken, so to speak, and just going for the jiggle peek, just standing up, spraying through the wall. Flash grenade gonna come in, but there's so much presence here. Yusuke, he does get clipped by the knife. Gonna find the kill as Bone pushes in to help flush out this pesky Mozzie. But he's in showers. Can he find the flank kill here? All he has to do is find a sliver. He's looking through the drone hole. Unfortunately, he's caught looking the wrong way. Yusuke gets his revenge. Unfortunately, Panic is not going to be able to translate the way he did last time.
That's huge here now. INC have the opening kill and the momentum that comes with it. Translating this into a second would almost I think, guarantee their success. And just as I say that, here it comes. Bone onto Martyr, the Cade is down, and the Mozzie already having been eliminated. The Jaeger will try to go and peek, but it doesn't work in his way. That's a 2v5. Exile heating up now after the rehost. Just Abadu and Jimmy Buckets left as the final reserve for defenders on the bomb site. The utility waste flashbang sent flying over the wall. It's a frag grenade next to follow. If he launches this long enough with the intel, it might get something done, but I think it'll detonate before it even goes through the wall, bouncing off the top of the reinforcement. A slight misplay there. Possibly could delay this even further. An impact still here from Abadu. InControl Nation, little do they know, they might just be able to force onto the bomb side and completely shut down Abadu. But still a concern is Jimmy Buckets waiting back and split. A push in comes here, and it's a flood into the objective. He can't even find one, but it's Jimmy Buckets for two on Exile and Yusuke Kojin to close it out. INC with 3 rounds in a row, and 11 goes their way.
We head to the final round of regulation here. There's so much on the line. I think off the back of that, Visionary are going to be smarting just a little bit. That should not have gone as one-sidedly as it did in favor of InControl Nation, especially given Visionary, they were the ones to call the rehost. It feels like they may have been working against themselves off the back of that call. It stalled the momentum. They were trying to use that maybe potentially. I would imagine there's probably some issues going on as well, but use that, the momentum, give themselves a bit of breathing room as we head to bunk daycare. And realistically, this bomb site is 50-50, so it could go either way in the end, but they are hedging their bets here. If somehow we see Visionary steal this one away, they get the 3 points on the board, they result this series in a tie, and they strike a huge blow to InControl Nation.
Yeah, you do not want to be here for Visionary, who fought so hard. All they needed to do was, after their strong attacker wins, just get a few more on the defense. But INC, their performance has had a huge shift. In these last 3 rounds, they're firing on all cylinders. Just as I talked about during the rehost, it looked like they were starting to heat up and they had found their stride inside of Theme Park. We'll go for a bunks and daycare defense. I think only the second time we've had this so far outside of round number 10. Last time we went here, it was a fairly chaotic and confusing one where INC had a lot of pressure being established from Arcade, the window and the stairs, as well as inside of Kafe. And INC may elect to do something similar here, or perhaps go for more of a traditional east to west clear. We'll have to wait and check these initial positions from them. I think you've got a few players probably ascending the staircase outside of Kafe just about now. In fact, you do. You've got Nevo and now Exiled to come up on the rappel. Bone will start to get the drone work going as well downstairs. A mirror window placed here inside a bunk is vulnerable from below should INC attempt to use some of that vertical destruction to their advantage. And with Bone down low, that certainly may be possible now that Nevo has the intel just spotting out that window. But you'll have to get inside of barrels, which is still uncertain ground because INC have yet to drone it out. And with the way the Visionary have been playing so far, you can never quite know which areas of the map are clear and uninhabited.
And first minute gone. A lot of drone priority here from InControl Nation. Just how close they are to bringing this one back. And Bone, surprise, surprise, gets in, finds Abadu! Almost finds a second nitro cell, no, frag grenade, sorry. So, to get the response, Panic goes down, cannot ride that momentum to find a second, but losing out on one of those key nitro cells, losing out on Panic. This could be that push that InControl Nation needed to stem the bleeding, push it over into overtime. If they can find 3 more, we head to a reset. We're going to overtime if they can find those frags. And with Yusuke left alive and Kojin as well, it's going to be an uphill battle. Jimmy Buckets, though, has been a standout. Could really do some damage if he's given that potential.
Yusuke was on the coverage. He's got a bit of a drone friend as well there with him. They're going to rotate to come up from the main stairs, and this drone just plays keep away. He can't get the shot. Finally, Martyr will take it out, but INC still They stand tall with their man advantage to push it home to the objective. Yusuke wants to go aggressive here, waiting at the door. Exile tagged up just a bit, still holding off on these flanks. That black eye camera, though, constantly has been relaying the intel. It's Yusuke who swings out, Martyr onto Exile, but it's a swift refrag. Badger gets one before being eliminated. Just Jimmy Buckets left to get two. It won't happen. INC get round number 12. That's 4 in a row. Overtime is on the way.
2 times now, 4 rounds in a row, like you just said. Before that, it was 4 rounds in favor of Visionary to get themselves, and it's that 4-2 split at the half. InControl Nation just dig that much deeper. They're watching their angles. The crossfires and refrags are set up there. That was entirely a round of refrags you were talking about. They just weren't prioritizing it. They weren't positioning themselves to capitalize on that aggressive swing from their opponents. InControl Nation did it to a T, and now they get themselves another shot. It will be Visionary starting off on the defense for this overtime opening round. Initiation office coming in hard and fast. If InControl Nation can take this 100%, they close it out in the next round.
Oh yeah, this does not look good. But lucky for INC, they get to continue with their momentum. It won't be interrupted by a sudden first defense. Instead, they get to take their 4 rounds and maybe make that 5 with another attack. Office and initiation. This was only played once during that entire second half. It was played right at round number 9, which was the big turning point for INC. That allowed them to translate their momentum after being shut out time after time, moving further to start to get that comeback going. So what a better way to end their attacks, by going here now and taking another win. But because it has been so long, Visionary have got the opportunity to, say we can do just a little bit of switch ups here and come into it with a fresh strategy, and perhaps INC will not be the most prepared to go for something that they're well rehearsed at. Abadu has a setup, an extension inside of daycare with a reinforcement, both of them there, in fact, on the wall, as well as a Vulcan shield in the cafe doorway. Should he choose to, he can easily wrap around the corner and try to defend that position and force INC to go for the utility clear. We've got Panic on the flank, though. He's that rat waiting below, looking for any frags, and Yusuke with a bit of vertical destruction inside of the yellow hallway. Panic still peeking around the corner. There's one player coming in from Drug. It's Bone. I don't know if he's aware of it, though. He chooses not to shoot the camera for a brief moment, perhaps in wait. Should he alert his position? Here he goes, though. The Visionary have the intel to know that he's going up the stairs and tell Panic to swing. The more time you wait here for the Jaegers, the less opportunity, and he could already be on the stairs. He spotted out, and it's confirmed. Jimmy Buckets onto Yusuke. Bone taken off as well. The 416 to get the headshot. Visionary on a good spot to try and take this and move forward. It's aggressive here from Nevo. A double trouble for Abadu. Jimmy Buckets onto Exile, but they're keeping it close here. Kojin and Navosa.
Damage done as Panic goes down, looking for more. Kojin, can he line it up through the wall? Not quite. And Navoso is just going off right now. The man has been quiet up until this point, but he's sitting very, very solidly. It's a 2 versus 2 with 1:10 left on the clock. Up until now, Bone had been that catalyst for InControl Nation, the one to push things over the edge, do the initial damage, and let his team do the legwork to carry it over the finish line. Right now, though, Navoso has picked up that mantle very, very cleanly. At the moment, there's 52 seconds left on the clock. It's a 2v2. Both teams have similar health bars at the moment. It's not going to take a hell of a lot to close it out, and Kojin, he's going to give away his positioning there over by Yellow Stairs. Navoso, can he find the angle? If they can find one, that's exactly what they need. Navoso on what he full ace here. One more is all it's going to take. Can he see the angle? The pixel as Jimmy is just walking along arcade balcony. Kojin is going to be the one to go down. Triple for Jimmy, quad for Navoso. A 1v1 with 20 seconds left. There is no room for error right now. Whichever team can snake this one away, they can push themselves into a great spot going into OT. Nitro cell play from below Jimmy. He's looking for that information, but the initiation plant is coming in. Jimmy has nothing to work with. Nitro goes out. He's not going to plant has gone down as Nivozo, back against the wall, needs to win this gunfight, and he has the positional advantage. Jimmy has to come to him. Stickula, this is going to be a huge...
Here comes Jimmy. So little health between the two of them. He spots the air jab. This immediately reveals the info. He didn't even need to get close to that. The other air jab, though, will dislodge him. Approaching closer, it's Nivozo back from China! It's the ace for Nivozo! InControl Nation with round number 13, a 1-up advantage. The overtime comeback dream is true!
My God, what a round from Nivozo. Bone goes down, parallel to the opening gunfight, and Nivozo, out of nowhere, pulls this ace from thin air to get themselves the opening round in OT. One round is all InControl Nation need. They will get themselves 5 points off of the Playday and deny a win away from Visionary, something that Visionary desperately needs in this situation. This is unfortunate if you're a fan of Visionary. They have worked so hard to get to this point. Full regulation time in map number 1. They are now in OT on map number 2, their map pick, and it feels like they've stalled out, unfortunately. They try so hard, they get themselves in just the right place at the right time, and then one of these players from InControl Nation just shuts it down. It was Bone. Last round it was Nivozo. They now head onto the defense. InControl Nation, this was where they looked lackluster. So there is potential for Visionary to bring it back, but that's heartbreaking for Visionary. That is going to count against them.
What a storyline here from InControl Nation, who have fought their hardest to get here. 6-7. The advantage, which was so hard. I mentioned it was a long and arduous road to get here, but INC will finally arrive at what is potentially the final round of this game. We've got a Mira setup inside of Armory. A very strong turtle hold. This is contrary to what we expected and what we saw from earlier in the game. INC like to play it loose. Off-site pressure, roamers aplenty. This time it's another style. We're going to be waiting for Visionary to close in on the site. They are the ones who have the onus. Forced to try and put that pressure on early. Visionary have to get the drones going quickly here if they want to keep themselves in the fight. It's been so long since we've seen them on the attack, but can they make things work? Yusuke, I believe, the sole roamer on this lineup. Roaming inside, waiting in Drug Lab, trying to burn the clock for as long as he can. He returns to the objective, finally giving things up, and INC with a full 5-stack hold.
Last map, we saw a castle. This time, we see a doomsday bunker. Unfortunately, Yusuke, he's going to be the one to turn into a mutant when the nukes hit. Look at the setup. It's so aggressive. Once again, we know InControl Nation absolutely love to be the ones playing off of the front foot. They're going to be the ones looking to be the aggressors here in this situation. And no surprises that they've got this setup down. Exalt prepping that nitro. There's no one above him, unfortunately. Hey, look, it's better to be prepared and not have to use it than not be prepared and be caught out. Nivozo playing a tight angle. He's found 6 in a row. He's looking for more. Hits the dirt, his Nomad counterpart. That is a great start to the round for InControl Nation, who are looking to close this one out, secure their top 6 position here as they push towards the end of the season. At the moment, Jimmy is still alive, could look to do some work off the back of it, but that is a fatal blow that has been dealt.
53 seconds, frag grenade lopped over the wall. Visionary have got to get this hard breaching underway, and in fact, it already has begun. They've got one of the Somas yet already detonated. A soft Mira hold here. Kojin is looking to try and take out the player at top dragon, but also ongoing is the vertical play of Panic with the sledgehammer, opening up any opportunity for a position. It's a nitro cell launched up. Panic manages to dance around it though and avoid the damage, which could have been lethal to this execute. Keeping themselves at a 4v5 is imperative to the success here, but they have yet to clear this mute jammer, and it seems Panic has maybe already given up on this vertical game, which is going to make things much more challenging. That's another kill, a 3v5. Kojin on a Badger, the ace falls as well. Nevo up close, so much punishment. Bone on a Jimmy buckets, and it's the one final defender. A flawless round. InControl Nation with the comeback.
Clawing it back from the position they did, InControl Nation did not drop a single round since round number 8. 6 rounds in a row, which is more than you could ask for in the best of halves. 2 wins, unfortunately one of them not clean, so they do concede 1 point over to Visionary. But InControl Nation, that is only going to help their standings at the moment. A solid performance all round. Yusuke was in the thick of it. He's the unsung hero of this. The rest of the roster, Bones, Navozo, and that are traditionally the ones that stand out, but Yusuke was in the thick of it from start to finish, involved in a huge number of frags. Map number 1 went absolutely stratospheric and pushed them over the line. So InControl Nation, they're looking solid going into the final few weeks of play, and they are going to be a real contender going into.
This was that close overtime game that the analysts were wanting, and well, they sure gave it to them. A real showstopper, and one that kept us on the edge of our seats, and I'm sure everyone at home had their eyes glued to the screen as they watched that impressive comeback victory in overtime. So many victories. It looked like INC had run out of gas in that second split. It didn't matter, though. They turned on a dime, and their performance launched and rocketed off. But that'll be about us. Enough from us as the casters. We're going to go ahead and send it over to the analyst desks. I've been Sticula, joined by my co-caster Blue Panda, but oh, we're going to go for the interview. Okay. Before we get to talk to the analysts, we've got one of the victors from INC to chat with, and after that wonderful story arc and that really just one for the history books performance, it's good to be able to chat with one of the players from this team and get to know how that was made possible. We've got Kojin with us, the tank, the support legend from INC. What a comeback from your team. Congrats on your overtime victory for Theme Park. And it looked for so long like that wasn't going to go your way. What was the turning point for you guys that allowed you to get that rolling?
So, obviously we didn't do too hot on our defenses, which normally we do a lot better on. We went down 2-4. We kind of realized, they're not really playing how we want them to. We're kind of letting them pick their ones off, which is honestly why they were winning. Then going into attack, we don't have any actual attack set up. So with that being said, we have a little bit of structure, but not as much as we have on other maps such as Kafe or Oregon. So obviously we went down the first 2 rounds on TAC 2, which made it 6-2 in favor of Visionary. But then we kind of realized we're all comfortable with ranked attacks, not necessarily ranked gameplay, but we know what to do. So if you noticed, we instead of going for the cash take, which we did the first 2 rounds, instead we went for the Kafe push, and that worked out a lot better for us. I think that got us 2 or 3 rounds. So that helped a lot in terms of momentum. I really think the momentum's what helped us push it over, because we won, I think 6 rounds straight. I think it went 8-6, right?
Yeah, six rounds straight in the closing out that second map. But yeah, you guys, it's not every team that can dig deep in that situation and pull it back in the way you did. There was one very the opening round, you find yourself in a 1v3. What's going through your head in that situation?
Honestly, we're kind of, or at least for myself, I was trying to think, what went wrong, because when you're in a situation like that, you just either try to focus on that round at hand, or you try to, you think about the next round. So we didn't really know if I was gonna win or not, but after I killed the first person, because I got droned out, so after I killed the first person, we called out Planter. After Planter was dead, that was pretty much free. So that was an easy round that we got to pick up. And honestly, if we didn't win that, we would have lost, as the rounds would have gone 7-2. But, luckily we were able to pick that up.
Yeah, look, hey, they call the rehost, you're coming back into it. Navoso in the second to last round with, Bone goes down in one of the 2 opening gunfights. Were you guys expecting Navoso to clutch up the way he did?
Honestly, like I have high expectations for all my teammates. I hold myself to the same expectations. If we're down, I think we had multiple clutches this game. We're down at 2v4, 2v5, whatever it is, really. We are able to, bring that back. We all have the right mental for that. We play together as well as we can, try to drone and whatnot. And honestly, on that round with Navoso and they kind of just kept running into us, and that's what we realized a lot. They're a very aggressive team with no structure at all. At least that's what it feels like when playing against them. So, for the most part, if we're able to just hold angles, they're gonna push into you, or you push into them and you frag them while they're not paying attention. Because that's also how we got a lot of the opening picks with Bone, just pushing upstairs.
Yeah, and speaking of a couple of those opening picks, so in map number 1, you guys decided to ban out Buck, and Panic brought out something else. It kind of was the answer they needed. What were you guys expecting to run into a Sega Finker?
No, we definitely were not. I think Bone was sitting on cams early round, and all of a sudden he just gets completely destroyed by the shotgun running up the stairs. And then obviously he naded. I believe Panic naded somebody else from underneath. I think that was Sherb or Salvage, as he's named. So and him getting a 3K, like I don't know if it necessarily was his op, but it definitely did not help us. Obviously we lost that round in the end. And we lost it pretty bad too. That was a pretty demanding round for them. But again, that was just kind of like their rank style that they bring every single round. So it's really easy to counter once we find our groove. And I think that's one of the reasons that we went down in the second game, because although we played with Sherble the first game, we also had to get Exile used to that playstyle, which we obviously saw him struggle a little bit, but then he picked it up in the second half, so that's good.
Yeah, it definitely seemed like he had a bit of a transitory period. The first half, maybe it didn't sort of work out the best, but as soon as you kind of got over that hill at the start of the second split, he was able to kind of transfer the momentum, and he started to get a few kills here and there. I wanted to ask, in that very first round, it was that armory defense, and it looked like the pressure was really starting to mount from Visionary. You were last alive, I think, with 3 attackers still up, and you got a huge clutch. Tell me a little bit more about how you made that happen.
So I know I already talked about this, but so I'm sitting Furnace and I get droned. I realize there's a bunch of walls open. That this should be a free round for them, in all honesty. They should have won that through and through. They drone me, but they don't realize I rotate, so I was able to get the Cali, who's holding me split, but I was already over middle armory already, so that was a freebie. And then I don't know where we had the camera information come from, but we also had a call that I believe it was the Ace, maybe, I'm not sure, or the Thermite, but that somebody was planting close barrel wall. So that was the C4. That was a toss. So I was pretty happy that I got that. And then I'm not sure who the last one is. It might have been IQ. I think it was Nomad actually, but she looked split for some reason, so I think it just came down to miscommunication by them, or just not knowing where I was in general, because everyone that I killed wasn't looking at me. So I think that's pretty much how it happened.
Yeah, well,
all right,
huge props to you. Sorry, Stick, you go for it.
Sure. I just wanted to give you, Kojin, an opportunity to shout anyone out. If you've got any, fans at home you'd like to celebrate, the supporters, anything you'd like to say to everyone watching, all of the SCS fans at home, go ahead and take it away.
So obviously thank you to all the fans, all the people that are there to support us. I want to give also a shout out to Sherble, just for stepping in last second to sub in. He may have not performed the best, but he definitely did all the strats correctly, which is huge for us. We were able to play off of him. And then, also a lot of times, I don't know if we were in this match, but we seem to be the underdog in a lot of matches despite us winning them. So I think that kind of just fuels us even more, and people voting against us or whatnot, it just kind of motivates us to do even better. So I just want to say thank you to them as well.
All right. Well, it's been a pleasure casting you today. What a fantastic comeback story, but congrats on your win. You get 5 points out of this. You can go home and celebrate with the rest of your teammates and, talk about that win. I'm sure you'll be reveling in it.
Yeah.
All right. Take it easy, man.
All right. Thank you.
Well, that's about it for our interview. We're going to go ahead and toss it on over to the analyst desk just shortly, as we will not be coming back. You got another set of fantastic casters coming up for that second match of the evening. Once again, I've been Sticula, joined by my wonderfully talented caster, commentator duo, Blue Panda. Go ahead and follow us both on Twitter. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and throw it over to the analyst desk so they can break everything down and get into the real meat of that game.
Woo, baby. Okay, I'll tell you that much, that game was insane. 6 straight rounds coming out from InControl to win it. I mean, I was sitting here, I was eating a salad during the interview, right? Almost like InControl was eating up during those last 6 rounds, okay? I just had to make that comparison. I thought that was perfect for it. So, Pond, hit me, though. You've been the one with the facts and knowledge all day, so...
Man, facts and knowledge. If you were eating a salad, I'd say that that's what Visionary's eating those last few rounds. It looks like InControl's eating a nice juicy steak. They absolutely ate up. I mean, 6 straight rounds, and the whole thing came down to being more attacker sided because the roam game was entirely shut down for both teams. We saw this year that there's no roam game coming in from InControl. They don't have any presence upstairs. They're allowing the attackers to have that control. They're relying on a lot of more vertical pressure from C4s. They do end up getting the 1 kill, but it was completely shut down, and we get to see here we get to see that Visionary does get the execute on site, and they execute it perfectly. But Visionary came out on top, but once Visionary's roam game started to get found out and InControl started getting a little bit more confident in hitting their shots, that was game. I mean, they shut down the roam game. It was the one thing that Visionary had going for them on the defensive side. And as soon as InControl started hitting their shots in that attack, it was GG's.
It was Navozo waking up, somebody gave him the energy. He was supercharged. I don't know, but my lord, the man went off, especially after the rehost towards the end of the game. He had like 7 kills in just 2 rounds after that rehost came through. That was insane. I mean, I don't know what much more to say about that, man, but whatever you were doing, keep doing it, my friend, because, yeah, you're going crazy. Same thing, though, with Jimmy on Visionary. He's a guy that has not shown up this whole season so far. I'm not doing that to be mean. Obviously, I'm just, stating the statistics. He has not shown up. But today, he's gone positive, I believe, both maps, and he actually went over 10 kills, I think, this map. I don't remember what the whole rehost count, but he definitely was going nuts at some point in time. So Visionary, take a page out of his book, I think, and you might be able to, turn this outcome around. But either way, both phenomenal performances.
Yeah, especially by him and Abadu. I mean, him and Abadu are the more clutch players. Panic was a little bit more consistent throughout the entire match, especially on that defensive side. I gotta say, Panic hits some of the dirtiest C4s I have seen.
Oh, yeah.
But in the end, it is a team effort, it is a team game. Badger didn't show up the way that he should have this time around. And those are just small things to correct. I mean, InControl Nation, as soon as they started figuring them out on attack, started completely dismantling their roam game. It was it. I mean, those players do need to come up, but they fought it through and through. I don't know what Navozo did after that rehost. Maybe he got some caffeinated drinks, maybe snorted a little bit of G Fuel, but I mean, he went absolutely cracked nuts, and it was definitely a well-deserved win.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, InControl. Oh man, I don't even know what to say anymore, dude. It's just so perfect. That is the ideal scenario for any team, is to come in and win 6 in a row, especially on your attack on theme park. Like that is prime time real estate to pick up rounds, and they did exactly that. And what a huge comeback story too. Well, because I believe it was match point for Visionary all the way back in round number 8. It went 6-2. And then, InControl just said, nah, not today, man. We're taking our points back, and they did it. So GG's to them. But Pond, I'll leave it back to you, man. Do you have anything else you want to highlight? Okay, something happened there. I lost my connection for a minute. But do you have anything else you want to say before we transition on over to this next game?
I honestly want to highlight both teams here. They both played each other very, very well. It was exactly as I'd said, that both teams are going to be reading into each other. They're going to adjust as the game goes on. Neither team looked uncomfortable, minus Visionary throwing a few rounds, and InControl honestly throwing a few rounds on that defensive half.
Definitely.
it was a well read out, well balanced game. We got to see east side takes, we got to see east side roams getting shut down, we got to see a lot of vertical play, we got to see some hero plays. I mean, Navozo on that first round of overtime, that ace was absolutely just insane, and playing off his intel, playing off his calls. I think both teams called this map fairly well. I think that InControl Nation was the better team in the end. I think that they made their calls the right way. They turned it up, and they actually kept their composure when things started getting a little bit more dire. I mean, making that comeback is never easy, and they show that they have what it takes. I mean, I know that coach said in the interview that teams keep on sleeping on them. I'm not sleeping on Control. I've got them. I had them winning this game, and I always will, just because they have that composure. Yeah, that's really all I got to say on the matter.
Yeah, man. I would say, yeah, I don't think anyone's sleeping on InControl, dude. I would even put you guys up there in my top 2 teams right now in the season. I think you guys are going to make it to the final if you continue playing the way that you've been playing, especially in those last 6 rounds. So we'll see if that's going to hold true for the remainder of the season. But I think it's it for my time here in the analyst desk. And I know, Pond, you're actually going to be casting this game with Chief. So it's going to be the first time we're seeing you on the casting booth for a while, and I'm very excited. So I'm going to go ahead and throw it on over to you guys. I'll see you guys after the end of the first map here with Keg on the analyst desk. So.